Good evening and welcome to the February 26, 2024 regular board meeting of the Akron Public Schools. Roll call, please. Dr. Thompson.
Mr. Alexander.
Present.
Ms. Autry.
Present.
Ms. Hall.
Present.
Ms. Jackson.
Present.
Dr. Molnar.
Present.
Mr. Perry.
I'm here.
Mrs. Sykes.
Present.
All members are present.
Thank you, and I'd like to welcome our student school board member joining us this evening, Mr. Cochise Griffin, senior from ECLC. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Griffin.
Hi, thank you.
Could you please lead us in the pledge? And if you're able to stand, please do so.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will go ahead and move into our community and school reflections, and we will start with our Scholar Board member this evening, Mr. Griffin. Please proceed.
Hi, my name is Cochise Griffin. I'm a proud senior at East. I'm in the automotive pathway. I'm a football player at East, and I play defensive and offensive line. This season, our record was 8-2. This is my fourth year on the football team and my third and final consecutive year serving as a student board member. After graduation, I will be accepting my scholarship offer to Central State, which is an HBCU here in Ohio. I am a first-generation college student, and I plan to change the narrative not only for people of color, but student athletes as well. I want athletes and people of color to know that college is accessible for them as well, and they can change the narrative and trajectory of not only their lives, but their families' lives also. While attending Central State University, I plan to pledge Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, which is a prestigious black fraternity. Members have to maintain a 3-point GPA, which shows academic success. Marcus Hayes, the head football coach and intervention specialist at East, or Coach Hayes as we call him, has made my journey to college a lot easier and affordable. He has not only helped me sign to college, but has helped 10 other seniors at our school, sending 11 players total to college. Some of the college players are attending include Toledo University, Notre Dame College, and the University of Findlay. Ms. Dreamer Whitfield was also a tremendous role in my journey. Throughout high school, she has presented me with ample opportunities, such as allowing me and my family to appear in a PBS documentary that will be released nationwide this April. Serving as a student board member with Ms. Dreamer Whitfield has allowed me also to gain a lot of connections, including some people sitting at this table, like Mr. Bruce Alexander. He knows my family and has similar background as me. Seeing Mr. Alexander in the courtroom a couple of weeks ago and us getting to have a quick conversation showed me their relationship extends beyond the board. Relationships with adults and students are very important because they could be viewed as mentors and influence a young person trying to figure out life. My call to action to the board is to build strong relationships between staff and students, develop programs for students with mental health issues. This will improve attendance and decrease violence within Akron Public Schools. I love my mom. She is also here for me. Please stand. I want to applaud my mom for all the sacrifices and investments she has done for me. On behalf of the student board, thank you for allowing me to speak. What questions can I have?
Mr. Griffin, it's been a pleasure to watch you and your growth over all this time. I'm sure my colleagues agree that we're proud to see your growth and your success and your hard work pay off in the form of this scholarship. So my question is, what will you be taking at Central State?
I don't know what major I want to do, but I'm leaning towards business and marketing. But right now, I'm shortly undecided.
And that's okay. Now's the time to explore and continue to learn. Are there other questions for Mr. Griffin? Member Hall?
Thank you, Madam President. I just commend you.
Thank you.
You know, you're a young black man, and you keep on keeping on. And don't let anybody deter you or make you feel less than anything. You said you're at East CLC?
Yes.
Okay. So there's a lot of people talking about East and how bad it is, and it's all black and this, that, and the other. You are a product of that. And you are here to show everybody, not just Akron, but everybody watching in the world, that you are not what they say you are, okay? And you live for your truth. And East produces great kids, and you're one of them. You are the example, and I know there's so many more. So I hate the stigma that they have it on East right now, as you know, it's been on Bookto too, but you are a product of it, and you keep shining.
Thank you.
What was I gonna say? And you already know what you want to pledge, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not happy about
good.
that.
I kind of looked at him out the corner of my eye like,
No.
but hey, you do what's best for you, and you keep shining. I'm proud of you, and whatever we can do, let us know.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Griffin? Mr. Alexander?
You know, Coach East, you know, I'm kind of emotional to a certain extent because you mentioned something that's kind of dear to me, to where I come from, and it was tough for me, but I know your family and we all grew up together, and it wasn't easy for us, but you've done such a great job. I'm so proud of you. I commend you on what you're doing. Please continue to change the trajectory of what's going on, and make sure that you get the best education you can for you and your family, because you're going to have a family one day, and you need to make sure they're taken care of. And so do that. And also, when you're doing that, teach them the way to go so you can break the chain. Okay? And I'm very, very proud of you. All right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other? Vice President Jackson?
This is my guy, Coach Cheese. I've shouted out Coach Cheese multiple times. Excellent athlete, a man of good character and integrity. And actually, Coach Cheese, we came on the board together. When you became a board member, I was a new board member, and it was my pleasure to meet you. And I'm like, Mr. Alexander, I'm so proud to see you just in the community, to see you here as a board member consistently, a student board member, excuse me. And Ms. Hall said it. I just concur with everything that's been said. You are excellent. You're excellence in motion. And I speak life, and that's why I said that we're going to see you in the NFL Hall of Fame one day. You and Beast Mode, they know your name out here and on that East field, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to commend you for that, and just for being a student of standard and making a commitment and sticking to it. As I said, you've been here the whole time, and as I've been here. So God bless you. And anything we can do, and I know some good alpha men that will help support you in your efforts at Central State and even locally. So I'll be sure to make sure that they know that you said on this platform where your heart lies. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Ms. Hall?
Thank you. There's an Alpha scholarship. Also, I think it may be out now. Make sure you apply.
Yeah,
If you
my
haven't, then
counselor just told me about it. He sent me the email. I'm getting started on that right away.
All right.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Griffin? Again, I want to congratulate you, wish you well. I'm confident you're going to do great. Thank you to your family and your support system, and Coach Hayes over there at East, who's doing amazing things. So, and also let us know about this documentary that you mentioned. Is there a name of it? Do you know the name of it yet? Or?
I'm not sure, but Ms. Dreamer Whitfield does. I'll let you know by the end of the day.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. Okay, so if there's no other questions or comments for Mr. Griffin, we will move on to any other our board members who may have some community reflections. Vice President Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so since the last time we met, I was fortunate to attend the middle school choirs in the round at the Winter Concert Series at Garfield CLC. I started, I set off all the alarms. Coming in the side door, literally, I really did. I came in, because as board members, we have our badges that give us access. So I want to shout out to their security team, because they were top flight security, because they were on me very quickly, and I had to explain to them, I'm so sorry. I had no knowledge that this had changed and I need to go through the front door. But I was glad to see that they were really on it. I was really glad to see the students perform. Ms. Kim Wilson, she does a wonderful job with the arts and highlighting the gifts of our students. The various choirs did really well, very impressive. Jennings Choir, and I did share some of that on my Carla Jackson for School Board page so that you can see some of the choirs, but it was just really good to see our students and their giftedness to perform. Additionally, I was fortunate enough to go and support Jackie Silas Butler as she was being honored at the Feed the Hungry Project in Hamilton, Ohio, near Cincinnati. And they honored her with the Prestige Award. She's the executive director of Project Grad, and she assists our learners here in the district at Bookdoor as well as East High School with ensuring that their success in graduating from high school as well as college, and raising funds for those efforts. And that is one of the reasons they highlighted and wanted to honor her. So I was happy to be there to show my support as a member of the community and of the Akron Public School Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Jackson. Mr. Perry?
So along those same lines, I had a chance to go to the Middle School Jazz Festival last Friday. And of course, I had to go because my oldest, Josiah, was playing in the Litchfield Jazz Band, and there were several bands that were there. Ennis was there, I Promise, Jennings, Litchfield, Higher, Booktool, and Miller South. And they all did great performances. They all had different pieces they played, different songs they played. Fantastic event. I want to thank Dawn Wilson for having me there and allowing me to speak to the audience that was there. But they were great, though. Everybody was great that night. And I look forward to going to the next one.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Any other community and school reflections? Member Hall?
Thank you, Madam President. I visited North last week, North High School. I had two wonderful chaperones, May and Tapsha, two awesome juniors. May has a paid internship this summer for Children's Hospital, and Tapsha, he has an internship with the communications firm this summer. They took me around the school, met a lot of people, seem to be very popular kids, both on honor roll. One is a Viking scholar and one is on the honor roll. Met with Michael Lilly, he's a teacher there. And this is Black History Month, and he is the first black male to partner with Samsung to help make an app. And he's a teacher there. And he also created a song called Thank You North. It's on YouTube, TikTok, all the views and things like that where he gets money for it. He pays, he gives a scholarship to the students at North to start a business. So, your EIN number is free, but you have to file, with the Secretary of State for like can't remember what's a license. Yeah, an article. Yes. And that's $99. So if a student wants to start a business, that money from Thank You North pays for them to get a business. So I thought that was pretty amazing that, giving back. And he's born and raised in Akron. So I thought that was pretty cool. And we don't really hear about people working for Samsung or, things like that. So that was pretty awesome. I met with another teacher, Mrs. Meeker. 22 sophomores just received their CPR certification last week. So I thought that was pretty big. And she has her whole classroom set up to like an office setting. So if you want to do customer service, she has a section in the classroom where you sit down on a telephone in a cubicle and learn how to do customer service, because customer service is a real job. As well as setting up boardrooms so you can conduct a meeting. She teaches all the kids that, and I thought that was pretty cool. By them getting their certification, she's like, I want to do more. So I said, what more, do you want to do for the kids? And she said that she would love to get them certified to use an EpiPen or Narcan training, or even cannabis training, because it did pass, it's legal. So she wants them to be ahead of the game and get that training, because you never know what's coming next. And then also maybe live people to do the blood pressure on. Instead of the dials and things like that, you're not really getting to read. You can maybe have some senior citizens come in and maybe take their blood pressure and things like that, just to open up the world a little bit bigger. Instead of kids learning about all this in college, they can learn about all this in high school. So I was really blown away. Those kids are doing wonderful things at North, so I'm just pleased to have that as my area to continue to learn about it and the different languages and all the different countries that we have in Akron. It blows my mind. So we need to start making our city and our businesses reflect the people of Akron. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Hall. Any other reflections, Mr. Alexander?
Yes, I had the opportunity to attend the Cosba concert, and it was a very good conference. There were about 1,500 people, school board members, and a few superintendents from across the country, from about 25 states, and they had some very good breakout sessions. And I'm just going to name a few that I thought were really good, and some that I attended. Was board governance, which is something they're talking about the national level. What is board governance? How does board govern? What is your purpose, and what is your role as a board member? It talked about board assessments, which was something that was, I think we talked about here at one time, but they talked about that. Social and emotional learning was big with our students. That was a very good breakout session when they talked about all the things that our kids go through, and a lot of times how teachers and others do not know or not even understand what is going on with our kids. They talked about equity, and looking at equity through the equity lens, looking at everything through an equity lens, so to make sure that not just our students, but everyone gets what they need so they can be successful, and particularly our students. And then there was there were about 3 sessions on artificial intelligence and how kids are using that right now, and most adults don't even understand what's going on, but how you can turn that around and use it for a positive way in a classroom setting. So those were really good. The conference, all in all, was a very, very good conference. There was a lot of good people, presenters, and it's good to be able to go to those because you get a chance to connect with people maybe that you know, but even people that you don't know, so you can hear what's going on across the country, not just in our area. And I'm glad to say that, I know for us, we're not where we want to be, but we're a lot better off than a lot of other school districts across the country. So I'm glad to be here at Akron Public Schools. I also had the opportunity to go to North High School last week also, and it was, I went there. It wasn't scheduled for me to go there for this event, but I ended up in this event. It was called the Locker Room Experience, and I was going up there to meet Dr. Devin Carter from the University of Akron, and he said he was going to this. And when I got there, I was very impressed. Mrs. Carrie Stewart, who's the athletic director and a teacher there, had the kids, and they have a mentoring program. It was really nice to see all these kids sitting in one room with their mentors, working with them and helping them with their homework and other things that was going on, how the kids were interacting with each other. It was really, really good. I mean, I thought that's what mentoring and tutoring is all about. They did tutoring during that time as well, and they fed the kids. That was their lunch. They brought in lunch for them, so they didn't have to eat the regular school lunch, but they brought in. But it was very good, and they had a speaker by the name of Leland. I forgot Leland's last name, but he's a personal trainer, and his program is called Net Worth Training, and he does training. And he had the kids. He deals with boxing and training, but he had the kids come when the kids come out there, and he showed them how he can use boxing but how you can, stop kids from fighting, basically, and how you can prevent all the different things from happening. But he had some acronyms, CALM, and I don't remember what all they stood for, but it was almost keep everything, always keep calm, keep yourselves calm, keep everyone around you calm. He was really good. So he's a young man who I'm looking to hopefully get him in our juvenile detention facility to come in to talk to the kids and work with them a little bit, because I think this will be good for them. And then lastly, I'm very proud of 2 students I had opportunity to meet this past week as well. 2 students from Ellet. One gentleman is our student representative, Mylan Snoddy. Very, very professional young man already. He's already in college and beyond college, and how he presents himself, how he carries himself, how he talks. He was very, very, very good person, a very good role model for his fellow students. Another, Piper Mead. Piper was very soft-spoken, but when she spoke, and the words meant a whole lot. And so it was nice to be in this meeting with them to see how they carried themselves, because the way that they carry themselves is the way you want all our kids to carry themselves. They carry themselves in a professional manner, and they're just in high school. And they, I'm gonna say this, but maybe I shouldn't, but they carried themselves better than most adults do, And it was, that meant a lot to me. I thought, wow, I was really proud of them. So I wanted to make sure I gave a shout out. And I want to say this, Coach Chief, it's okay you'll become an alpha, but I thought you'd be a kappa, but that's all right. But you're still gonna do good. And I'm really proud of you. And if there's anything I can do to help you along the way, even when you're in school, you make sure you contact me, okay?
Okay,
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Any other reflections, Dr. Molnar?
Thank you, Madam President. I also was pleased to attend our winter concert series. I got to see the high school choirs in the round, and everyone knows I love student performances, and this is the best kind of student performance because you get to see all of the high schools all together. And it was especially wonderful because you could hear in the singing the joy that the students had for the performance and for each other, and in an audience that really appreciated the time and the effort that they were putting into everything, because they were all peers together. So I want to say thank you for letting me attend that and for the invitation to that. I also was at Resnick 3 times on Friday, so I will try to time myself so I don't talk for too long. So Friday morning I started, February 23rd, with Resnick Connects, which is the monthly meeting hosted by Mrs. Wamis about how school is different. And there are always about a dozen parents that come and learn about the school and class. And so this Friday was hosted by Mrs. Murray and Mrs. Murray, because we have 2 at Resnick. And so I'll start first with Mrs. Carlisa Murray, because she shared our school store fundraiser and gave credit to Mrs. May Walker, who presented the school store fundraiser to all of the liaisons. And I'll have to admit, they sent something home and it was in a folder and it ended up on my counter. It's probably still on my counter. The kids get an animal huggy and I wasn't gonna do it, but Mrs. Murray convinced me, and my kids are so happy with that little stuffed animal. And while I was there, I found out that they got close to $10,000 in gift cards through this fundraiser just this month in February. And so, as we often acknowledge large donations within our consent agenda, and as our finance committee also has recently mentioned, trying to figure out a formula of what kinds of things our community is going to give. I want to recognize, first of all, the hard work of Mrs. Murray, because I wasn't going to do it, but I did, and the generosity of our community with over $9,000, almost $10,000 in gift card donations in just this month alone. And then later on that same day, the Resnick PTA had cookies and canvas fundraiser, and there were at least 50 people there also, in addition to the 2 fundraisers happening at the same time. So I want to recognize both of those, but then the other Mrs. Murray, Resnick's gifted teacher, presented about the gifted program at Resnick, and as many people know about disparities in identification of students who are gifted. And I actually have a small, for the Encyclopedia of Personality and Individual Differences, I wrote an article, or the blurb, on Lewis Terman. So I know a lot about IQ testing, and among the Big 8 Ohio school districts, as we are part of the Big 8, there's an average of 9.4% of students identified as gifted. But smaller districts, even smaller districts with high poverty, are still up at like 11%. And so some of the things that we do that we can highlight, and that is highlighted we do as a district, is we give the COGAT to all of our second grade students, and we give the COGAT again to all of our fourth grade students to try to make sure that we are identifying students as we can. And once students are identified as gifted, then they are always identified as gifted, and they will always receive gifted services. And then another thing that she explained is that she gives lessons as part of the IB model to all students, not just the students who are identified as gifted. And so it felt like, are you smarter than a third grader? Because she gave us examples of some of the math lessons that she gives the third grade students, and we sat there as parents going, wow. This is difficult. These are difficult questions. And she showed some of the released test questions from the Ohio assessments, and parents were really surprised. And it made me think about our equity committee meetings, and how there are often examples of some of the scenarios that are given as professional development. And I think it would be really interesting if we could all have experiences and see some of the quality of instruction and the lessons that they're giving. I mean, I was so impressed by the lesson, the sample lesson, and the problem-solving skills and everything that she was, and I know I'm not the only person there who felt that way, because all of the parents were surprised. And she gave us a puzzle, and only half of us could solve it, and then we found out our kids had already solved it, and that really hurt our egos, but then also our pride, because our kids were able to solve it. So I think it would be interesting, also possibly as related to an enrollment initiative, if people really understood the high level of instruction that is really happening versus maybe the perception of people who are pulling their kids out of the district. Maybe if they saw what our students were learning, they'd come back and they would want to do that. So that is everything from Friday. Also, yesterday, I spent some time at a celebration, because I also love a festival, especially when there are student performances. Yesterday was Mon National Day, and so we were at the Royal Center to celebrate the Mon community and their most important festival of the year. And I was actually looking at a picture I took yesterday, trying to figure out what I wanted to say and what made this celebration different than what I've said before about all the other festivals that I've been to. There are hundreds of people, standing room only for a 5-hour event that was maybe 10% in English. And what I noticed really was different about this event, and the picture that I took, the front tables, the long tables in the very front row that's usually reserved for politicians and other special important people. In my picture, all of those tables were filled with at least a dozen of our APS teachers. The very important people at this event were our teachers who came there, who are invited every year, many of them from Leggett and other buildings, to support their students. And while I'm there, I was listening to them, as they take pictures and say, oh, she was mine, and now, watching their students grow and the pride for their students. And they're not taking pictures to give to the student's family. The student's family's there. They're taking pictures to bring back to the Teachers Lounge today and tomorrow and share with their colleagues, because there's a genuine sense of community that, especially in Leggett, as we remember, a lot of the teachers and students came when they were talking about their buildings and trying to share that with us. And so actually being able to witness that in person was very, very heartwarming. And then the last thing that I want to say that I'm adding now at the last minute here, there seems to be a lot of confusion and misinformation going around about eclipse stuff. So I know personally I would like to know more about the eclipse things, because I know there's question about calamity hours, and does an act of nature mean hazardous weather conditions or law enforcement emergency, and is it on the emergency management Ohio page? And as we talk about, you know, Maslow before Bloom with our students, I was reflecting on Maslow before Bloom with our teachers, and having a PD day for our teachers. Are they going to be able to sit and listen and really focus on something if they're worried about driving home? A lot of our district teachers don't live in our district. They live over an hour away. And so I was thinking about that, and I was also thinking about other questions that people have asked, like glasses or classroom activities that are related to the eclipse. Are we doing anything for that? And I said, you know, I don't know any of those things, so I will just ask them, and maybe someone else will have those answers. So I don't know if we're going to do any of that, but I'd like to know. Thank you.
All the students in APS second and fourth grade in every cluster receives the gifted testing.
That's what I was told.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify to make sure we weren't just talking about Resnick. And so parents can, so the observation of these lessons can be seen in Bookdale cluster, North cluster, is it a specific time, do you know, or is there, when you said observe the lessons, so any parent that's watching, any cluster, they can come in to observe the lesson as you observed it?
So the test is different than the lessons.
I understand that. That's why I said lesson, not test. Like the lesson, they be observed in any cluster at a specific time?
Are they posting them virtually?
No, I won't hold the time. I can talk to you offline. I just was trying to say for parents, like, you know, you observed the lesson, you talked about how great it was. When would someone be able to see a lesson? Because I know we went over the testing, at what point in time? Is it like, do you schedule to come see? Do you just pop up in the class and say, hey, I would like to see a gifted class?
Yeah, well, I think that was what I was trying to say, but I'm not typically very eloquent or linear in my speech. But there are gifted, so the COGAT is given to all second and fourth graders across the district, and we have gifted teachers across the district, and gifted teachers are giving gifted lessons across the district. I witnessed one parent meeting, and that parent meeting was at Resnick, but it would be interesting, and I think I feel, especially now that you're asking, people would like to see examples of great instruction that's occurring and celebrate the great instruction that's occurring across the district.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Any other community and school reflections? So I'll be very quick and brief with mine. Since we last met, I had the wonderful opportunity to attend a ribbon cutting at Hire's new Family Resource Center. This is our 5th Family Resource Center in the district. We have them at Hire, Mickey Bright, Robinson, Helen Arnold, and North. And so they provide a lot of resources for our families, including lift rides to appointments, legal support. They have DoorDash, who helps deliver information to families, not food, but information, because as you mentioned, it doesn't always make it home in those book bags. And then also our partnership with the county supports those resource centers by having employees there to help families sign up for services. So just another wonderful thing that we have going on within Akron Public Schools. Also, I had the opportunity to visit the winter concert series, the Middle School Strings at Miller South last week. And thank you to Dawn Wilson for her continued support for the winter concert series. I learned that we partner with Save the Music Foundation. We are in year year 2 of a 10-year grant that provides $22,000 to all of our elementary schools who have space and an actual music class for instruments. And that we also partner with the Maryland Stroud Music Alive program, and they accept instruments. So if you have any that are just sitting around from years past, you can donate those, and this foundation will refurbish those and then redistribute to our students in need. Also, APS has made an investment in the arts. It's so important. You will notice that all of those students in the Winter Concert Series had these nice polo shirts on that were individualized to their school. So that's one of the investments we've done. Also, our choirs have new robes, and then many of our marching bands had new uniforms, some for the first time in 30 years. So special thanks to Don Wilson, all the instructors and students for providing this arts opportunity for our students. Also, the Youth Philharmonic performed, which is a collaboration between Akron Public Schools and other Akron school musicians, and they were just phenomenal. They just sounded so professional, and it was directed by the music director from Miller South. So really nice program. And then also, I just wanted to acknowledge, as I always do, sports and the valuable part and role that it plays. Mr. Griffin already alluded to some of those, but I know our North High School wrestling team, who were the City Series champs, many of those young men and women are proceeding on to the sectional tournament in wrestling, so we should be proud of that. And then also, Elliott girls basketball are the sectional champs, and they will be playing in the district semifinals against Hoban tomorrow at Ravenna High School at 6 p.m. And so I'm not sure about basketball yet, but also I think Firestone girls has some wrestlers moving on to district or sectional. So we should just be really proud, because this provides our students with outlets, opportunities, and scholarship. So thanks to those coaches and all of those families and students who are engaged in sports. And so that's all that I have for community and school reflections. We will proceed on to requests to address the board. We have one person that I will call up, Mr. Chris Davis. And as you're coming up, you will have 3 minutes to speak. Participants will not be permitted to speak on matters related to vendors, business matters, formal complaints, grievances, specific students or student records, personnel matters, or potential or pending legal matters. Anything that you share with us, we will direct to our superintendent to be addressed, so we will not respond to your comments. Please proceed, Mr. Davis.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I'm not intending to speak about any of those things you listed. So my name's Chris. I have 2 kids in the Akron Public Schools. One's at the Akron STEM High School. One is at Akron Early College High School. 2 of Akron's best schools. First, I want to say thank you. I understand being on the school board in a public position is a pretty thankless job. Akron Public Schools as a whole has done really well over the past years, even through COVID, as a cultural shift. So thank you. Something I want to mention I really appreciate is the locking up the phones at schools and making kids actually have human interaction. Good decision. So I want to talk a little bit about the restructuring program with particularly the Akron STEM High School. I have 2 kind of basically requests for you to consider. Superintendent Robinson, you too. We've met at some of these public meetings you've had. First one's very simple, but just the name of the school. Okay, first, my grandfather graduated from Central Howard. My mom took classes there. My son is now there. That school is way past its prime. We get it. Something has to be done. I am disappointed that Akron Public Schools has waited for its 2 premier schools to the very last minute to try and accommodate those programs, however. So it's kind of like you're trying to shoehorn one of the premier programs now, at the clock striking midnight, into a different school. Central Howard, definitely time's passed, so something needs to be done. So again, the first thing, very simple, the name of the school. That came up several times at one of the recent meetings. I really don't believe you were trying to be flippant, but when you're saying the school will have a name. Trust me, it's like, okay, that didn't really assure people. So please just call it something simple. I'm just going to recommend, I know Robinson has a lot of history, National Inventor Hall of Fame has, please just call it like something like the Akron STEM High School. Simple, it's good marketing, you know where people are going, where they're coming from. The second thing is transportation. So I've heard from several superintendents and several administrators, kids from all over, kids everywhere take College Credit Plus now, we get it. The Akron STEM High School is specifically aligned, however, with the Akron University's calendar year. Those two schools, Akron Public STEM School and Early College, their school calendar is different from all the rest of the schools. So please, please do your best to make a special exemption. I get kids from Elliott are going, taking College Credit Plus and East and everywhere. But again, Akron STEM School has a special relationship with Akron University. So please, please try to make accommodations to address that partnership and make sure those kids have that maintained connection, even if they're not in a building on their campus. So thank you for your time. Again, thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. We will now move on to section 4.1, Superintendent's Report and the Redistricting Restructuring Plan.
Thank you, Madam President. We're going to begin with a video, please. Thank you.
Welcome to Akron Public Schools, where innovation meets education and dreams take flight.
We're not just a school district. We're a birthplace of educational excellence, where pioneers in education shaped the public school model.
Akron Public Schools is not just about textbooks. It's about unleashing creativity, fostering critical thinking, and nurturing analytical minds.
From fine arts to sports, STEM to STEAM, pre-K to college and career academies, we've got it all, including dynamic after-school programming.
Our scholars aren't just students. They're the future leaders, artists, scientists, and innovators.
It's not just about learning. It's about experiencing, growing, and thriving.
And speaking of thriving, our sports programs are a force to be reckoned with.
We believe in building not just great minds, but strong bodies too.
Akron Public Schools isn't just about the present. It's about preparing our scholars for the future.
We're not just educators. We're architects of success.
Join us at Akron Public Schools, where the journey of a lifetime begins.
The birthplace of innovation, where every scholar is a pioneer.
Empowering minds.
Enriching futures.
Akron Public Schools.
Akron Public Schools.
Welcome home.
Let's give a hand to that, please. I think we could do a little bit better than that. I want to acknowledge Keyshawn and Phoenix, who did the voiceovers for the Welcome to Akron Public Schools video. Phoenix Hilliard I'm sorry. Please stand. Phoenix is a junior scholar in applied engineering career path, specializing in construction. Phoenix is a volunteer at the radio station and is thrilled to share her voice with our constituents. Keyshawn Stevens.
Working at Arby's. Couldn't get off.
But let's recognize him anyway. He's a senior scholar athlete in the community health and safety pathway, emphasizing fire safety. Keyshawn is considering Wheeling University in West Virginia this fall and is a proud volunteer at the Summit FM. The Welcome to APS Our Public Schools video is one of many communication tools for promoting our school district, engaging the community, and attracting stakeholders to support and participate in our success. I would also like to thank Mr. Bruno, Tommy Bruno, if you could please stand. Mr. Bruno has been working with us along with our communications team and working to ensure that we had this video, which is something that we want to use so that we can be able to promote our district. And certainly, Ms. Sabetta, Principal Sabetta, if you please stand. She should be extremely happy because please stand again, Phoenix, please. Thank you. We just want to give you and Keyshawn another round of applause. And just want to say thank you to you guys for when I heard the video, I texted or called Mr. Bruno and said, oh my God, it is fabulous, and we're very, very appreciative. And so the video will be sent out to our families. It will also rest on our website so that visitors to our system can see what we have to offer and what Akron Public Schools is all about. So thank you so much again. Just want to remind our parents, again, whenever there perhaps are inclement weather days, to please check our school site, system website. Please also expect that you may receive a text and/or a call from, robocall from the school district. I want to provide an update on our Firestone cheer team that traveled to the Nationals this month. If you recall from my sharing earlier, the cheer team competed at the Ohio Regionals and received a first-place tie and a bid to the Nationals. The cheerleading coaches had this to say: although it was not the outcome we were hoping for, we are so proud of our athletes. Their hard work and dedication to the team and to the sport of cheerleading is phenomenal. Placing 12th in the nation, our first time at Cheer Nationals, is amazing. Nationals have not seen the last of Firestone cheerleading. They went on to thank all of those that supported their efforts and made this trip to Nationals possible, from donations to athletic sponsors, fundraising, well wishes, and also watching the competition on Varsity TV. Thank you, coaches and cheer team, for representing APS so well. We're proud of you. Thank you to the families, to our teachers and our staff for giving our athletes this opportunity. I would also like to share, I had the opportunity to go to Firestone to actually get a chance to watch our scholars in action as they were participating, and I'll get a chance to see the kindergartens. I couldn't finish, but we got a chance to, in the planetarium, to watch the stars, and it is very real. So when you get a chance to really sit in there, it's very real. I want to first, for the third consecutive year, our Ellet girls basketball team captured the City Series championship. The latest trophy was earned this January 31st. Again, a determined Buchtel team, and the victory extended Ellet's winning against the determined Buchtel team, and the victory extended Ellet's winning streak to 27 games in City Series competition. Once again, Tommy Jones Girls Basketball Championship Trophy will spend the next 12 months at Ellet CLC. Equally, if not even more impressive, the cumulative varsity GPA is a 3.5, and the teams have players that are involved as student ambassadors, locker room team members, CCP scholars, and upward bound participants. Junior Caitlin Holmes surpassed the 1,000 career points level for this season, has won back-to-back City Series Players of the Year honors, and has committed to attend Kent State University as a student athlete in women's basketball. On February the 13th, had an opportunity to witness the APS Middle School Basketball Championships that were held at Jar Arena on the university campus. This was made possible through our collaboration with the LeBron James Family Foundation. Admission was free and a crowd of nearly 500 attended. The girls' game saw Higher defeat I Promise in a great battle. The boys' game set a new APS middle school record as it went 4 overtimes between Higher and Ennis. Ennis won the championship in a thrilling game, and I enjoyed it. It was fun to be there. On Friday, I had an opportunity to visit Helen Arnold, CLC, Krause, CLC, and Buchtel, CLC. They were awarded $1,500 from the West Akron 5K Walk and Run Committee. I presented the checks to each school along with the team. Thank you to the 5K Walk and Run Committee for their generous donation to our schools. We genuinely do appreciate it. Many of my observations have already been shared by our board members, so I will not go through those. But we do have a Be Kind 330. Thank you. Our Be Kind 330 initiative is spreading across the 330 area, as we knew that it would. My Be Kind story this week shows a display of kindness from so many people at the Remedy Church. They donated 150 coats. I would like to thank Pastor Lavender for that. 100 going to Project Rise that works with our homeless students, and 50 going to our family liaisons who work directly with our families. To everyone here in this room, and to those who are watching online or may view this recording later, kindness does matter. This act of kindness not only will warm the bodies of our scholars, but it will warm the hearts of many who hear, feel, or experience this act of kindness. Thank you again to Remedy Church and to all those that donated coats and all those in 330 who are spreading the kindness in our community. I would like to ask our Chief of Staff, Ms. Carter, to come up, please. And the team, Ms. Deborah, Dr. Lash. So we're going to go over the redistricting restructuring plan, proposed plan for 2023-2024.
Okay, this is our plan for the restructuring, redistricting. Every day we are empowering minds and enriching futures, and so with every decision, we have our scholars in mind. Just so you know that we've been out to buildings several times, meeting with staff and meeting with community, parents, and also we've had student meetings. So we're going to talk about our redistricting restructuring plan along with the buildings that are impacted, the new attendance zone overview, as well as discuss enrollment and transportation. What is redistricting? It's the process of establishing school attendance boundaries. Every residential address in Akron has a middle school, elementary school, middle school, and high school assigned to their address. Restructuring is the process of relocating or the redesign of a school or a program.
And why are we proposing restructuring and redistricting in Akron Public Schools? Well, it's due to an imbalance of enrollment in some of our buildings, as well as we have some school closures happening, and we have some opening of programs within some of our buildings, as well as making sure that we're operating efficiently. In July of 2023, the proposed changes to the district occurred at the July 10th board meeting. And for the 24-25 school year, some of the changes involve closing, moving, redistricting, and restructuring. And the buildings that are impacted were Firestone Park, Stewart ELP, Essex ELP, STEM High School, OTT. We're requesting that it remains open for the 24-25 school year. And then also the expansion of pre-K and programming may determine the final use of Stewart and Essex buildings, which may or may not require the buildings to remain open. The proposal that's being made is impacting the following buildings: Robinson CLC, Harris Jackson, Forest Hill, Cyberling, Barber, David Hill, and Mason. So either we have students who will be rezoned from these schools, or some of these schools will be receiving students. And we'll dive more into that here in a minute. So who determines the scope of redistricting? A recommendation is made to the board, and then if the board concurs, then we'll start putting things into action once the plan is approved. The primary criteria that we look at when we are redistricting is geographic proximity, projected enrollment, building capacity, and as well as programmatic changes. And so now we're going to review the proposal for redistricting and restructuring. Closures. So we have building closures happening at Firestone Park, Essex, and Stewart. And so with Firestone Parks, our scholars will be zoned to Glover, Mickey Bright, and Boris. For Essex, our current Harris Jackson CLC kindergarten students will return to their home school, which is Harris Jackson. And then the current Essex ELP students will be moved to different schools throughout the district that will house the ELP programs. And so we're looking to have at least 1 or 2 ELP programs within each cluster. Stewart, the current Stewart students as well will go to different ELP programs throughout the district. Yes.
So we are trying to, as a result of what we are trying to do around building the capacity of our scholars around and related to literacy, we want to, the work has to start in pre-K and kindergarten. And so our focus is on full-day pre-K, which is still a program for next year. And we will be sending out the document that parents can begin to start registering their scholars for that if they're choosing to participate with the pre-K. We still will have part-time options for parents this year, but the goal is really for all of our kids to go into full-day, full-time pre-K. And so the reason that you saw the caveat here is because if we have a overabundance of students whose parents are wanting them to go into the full-time pre-K, and we may have to use those buildings as we currently are using today, those kindergarten students will go back to Harris Jackson, but we may have to use Essex and/or Stewart, and anticipation that we will also have pre-K across the district, then we may have to keep one or both of those buildings open if our enrollment dictates that. If it does not, then we won't be keeping those open. But if it does, then one or both of those would be remaining open.
For relocation, STEM High School will be relocated to Robinson CLC, and then Robinson CLC scholars will be zoned to Mason CLC and David Hill CLC. Overcrowding relief for Harris Jackson. So our Barber CLC students, our Barber CLC school will receive some of our Harris Jackson scholars. Cyberling will receive some of our Barber scholars. Forest Hill will have students move to Harris Jackson. Some of their students will go to Harris Jackson. And then with Harris Jackson CLC, we'll receive kindergartners. They'll be coming back from Essex. And then also they'll be receiving some students from Forest Hill. So the early learning program, again, we're going to try to have at least one ELP classroom within each cluster, and buildings are being identified based on space for ELP classrooms and to meet and to make sure regulations are being met with the ELP program. Some of our key insights. Letters will be translated for families regarding redistricting and restructuring once we get those sent out after the plan is approved. And then also some of the transition activities will occur in order to get families and students familiar with the building. Based on summer programming, students may be able to attend programming in the summer with the school they'll be rezoned to. And then services will transfer with students so that parents know that if I'm a student that is receiving English language learner support, or if I'm on an IEP, if I'm receiving services from McKinney-Vito, services follow the students. We can't guarantee that you'll have the same educator that will provide those services, but the services will follow the students. We'll have some students that qualify for transportation, and Mrs. Folk will dive into transportation a little later. School transportation support will be at kindergarten through 8th grade and will be provided for students who qualify based on address, route, and distance from the school. Again, Mrs. Folk will dive deeper into transportation a little later. And just because we proposed, when we first started talking about our redistricting and restructuring plan, we were going to have David Hill and Portage Path move to a different cluster, but those two schools will remain in the current clusters that they're in. David Hill will stay in the East cluster and Portage Path will stay in the Firestone cluster. The Firestone Park Elementary Building Closure Plan. Basically, if you look at the map here, that light blue that's in the middle, that's our Firestone Park zoning, and those students will now be zoned to Mickey Bright, Voris, Glover, and David Hill. And so you can see how that light blue part now is split up into 3 different colors to indicate the buildings they'll be going to. The dark blue is Mickey Bright, green, Voris, and then the red, orangish color is Glover. Some key insights regarding Firestone Park. Firestone Park will be used for various purposes until the board declares the building obsolete, at which time the ORC will be followed. The Ohio Revised Code will be followed. We'll maintain the building as long as it's in our possession. Cutting the grass, the upkeep, security. North Cluster. This chart here just shows the building utilization as it relates to why we needed to look at zoning our students. And so Harris Jackson is currently at 128% adjusted utilization. And so Harris Jackson kindergarten scholars are currently bused from Northwest Akron because their classes are located at Essex. And so with the redistricting, our students will be restructuring, our students from Harris Jackson that are at Essex will now be able to return to Harris Jackson. I guess that is restructuring and redistricting happening all at the same time. And so this is our current map of the North cluster and what's happening here. So in the yellow, you'll see Harris-Jackson. That light blue that cuts in the middle of Harris-Jackson, that's Forest Hill. The orange is Barber. Robinson is the pinkish color. It's purple on our map, but it looks pink up here. And then green is Mason. And so if you pay attention to that light blue, it's going to change when I go to the next slide, because those students that were at Forest Hill will now be going to Harris-Jackson, that were in the middle part of the yellow. And then over to the right, you'll see that is now orange instead of yellow, and those students will now go to Barber. And then down below, we have some of our Barber students who are now going to be zoned to go to Cyberling. The North Cluster attendance zone changes will only impact Harris-Jackson and Forest Hill CLC scholars. Jennings CLC and North High School attendance zones will not change, which means if I am a Harris-Jackson student and I'm going to Barber, I will go to Jennings as for my middle school, and I'll go to North for my high school. So the Harris-Jackson's students, middle school and high school is not changing. It's just the elementary grades. And so students from Harris-Jackson being zoned for Barber will attend Jennings for middle school and North for high school. We'll now dive into the East Cluster and look at what's happening there. Our proposed impact for the East Cluster, Robinson CLC students, again, will be zoned to go to Mason and David Hill. And this is because we are going to be moving our STEM high school into Robinson CLC. And the name for STEM high school is to be determined. This is the proposed redistricting for Robinson CLC. At the top, above 76, you'll see Mason, and then down below in the pinkish, orangish color is David Hill. Some key insights regarding STEM high school and the East Cluster changes here. STEM is proposed to be housed at Robinson CLC. The estimated cost to outfit the building will be from $500,000 to $1 million. It's 2 miles from the University of Akron's campus. It is on a route is available from the Arlington to the University of Akron's campus. And then we still are looking at the possibility of a shuttle. That's still under review. Robinson will be outfitted again for the current programming happening at STEM High School. The United Way, our FRC, will remain at Robinson CLC. Our students who attend STEM High School will continue to do what they're doing now as it relates to sports. They can continue to play sports with their home school. And then this map here is just a map of our clusters, and our clusters have not changed. I'm going to now hand it over to Dr. Lash, who's over our Family and Student Services.
Good evening. And so as you can imagine, with the proposed changes, there needs to be clear communication to our families about what that means in terms of their students and their enrollment. And so our families will receive personalized notifications. We are working hard behind the scenes to make sure that that can happen so that our families will know what their new zoned school would be and what their options are as a result. And our enrollment options are around open enrollment and continuity. And so just to make sure that we kind of level set a little bit with these two terms, open enrollment, most of our families are familiar with the open enrollment process for the district. It typically happens in the fall. This was the first time that we ran through January 15th. And so during open enrollment window, that is a time period for our families to express that they would like to attend a school outside of their zoned area or a specialty school. And the other option is continuity. And continuity, although it doesn't really apply here, is when changes happen in our family's status. They may move to a different attendance zone, and we offer them the opportunity for continuity if they can provide transportation to stay at that school just to increase stability. And so with the redistricting, restructuring proposal, we would like to offer a special open enrollment window for our families. And special doesn't mean that there's any special criteria that have to be met. It just means that it's a time period outside of our normal open enrollment window. And so we are proposing that that would happen as quickly as Wednesday, pending the board's approval. That we would make this special open enrollment form available for our families to start expressing their interest if they would like to open enroll to a school outside of the school that they would be zoned to based on the redistricting or restructuring. Again, and just to recap, our students in grades K through 5, the buildings that will be impacted, and those students will automatically be reassigned to their next year building. So that process happens seamlessly at the end of one school year to the next school year. But again, with that opportunity to request special open enrollment, then we would consider those requests. And for STEM High School, those students, pending board approval, would be moving to would be in the current Robinson CLC building, but would have the opportunity to request enrollment to a different high school. And at this time, I will turn it over to Ms. Deborah Folk, our Executive Director of Business Affairs, to talk through transportation.
Thank you, Dr. Lash. The transportation is a very specific topic within the state of Ohio. The state of Ohio mandates that K through 8 students residing less than 2.0 miles from assigned school building are not eligible for bus transportation. And I provided you the revised codes that is affiliated to in House Bill 110. The state of Ohio does not mandate bus transportation for students in grades 9 through 12. Therefore, our high school students will still continue to use a Metro bus service through Metro bus passes that are provided by the district. New APS bus routes will be determined based on the new attendance zones once the final vote is taken by the board. To move forward, students who open enroll are not provided school transportation. Safety issues will be reviewed once required bus service routing is determined. And special education and McKinney-Vento homeless transportation will continue to be met as required by the student need. And now I will turn this back over to Mrs. Carter.
And just as a follow-up, again, we are asking that OTT remains open and potentially close at the end of the 24-25 school year. And then again, the expansion of pre-K and programming may determine the final use of Stewart and Essex buildings, which may or may not require the building to remain open. So we're doing a hard push right now for our pre-K enrollment, and so we'll know by before, as relates to operations in-house, we'll know whether or not we're going to request the building to remain the buildings 1 or 2 to remain open. And that's all we have this evening for our read.
Thank you. Also, on the regarding STEM High School, so what I shared at the meeting was that when the question was asked about the name, right now I'm working with the Inventors Hall of Fame, and we have some things on their side that we have to adhere to, and we also have some things on the CLC side that we must adhere to. So that's why the name will be forthcoming. And once that is complete, then we can present that, and hopefully by the time we have completed this, we will actually have the name of the school. But this has been actually a good process, learning a lot about some of the things and decisions that we've made over the years and how we kind of got to this point here and how some of those decisions impacted. So it's even though it's been a lot of work, it's been really good to just kind of learn and understand. So we will, once we are able to finalize things with the Inventors Hall of Fame in the state, then I'll go back and share that information with our STEM families again so that they will know what the name is actually going to be. And I think that was all that we had, yes. So following tonight, Madam President, and to the board members, what we are going to do after today is we're going to send home a letter to all families in our district, letting them know the redistricting plan will rest on as it has been after each one of these meetings. We've gone and updated our site around the redistricting plan. So this will rest there as well, where families can see it. We've had families to reach out to us where we've responded back to them. And so that has all helped in what we have as a proposal, which means that from the first time that we started this up until now, there have been changes along the way, because as we've listened to our families and listened to our constituents in terms of some of the things that they've asked and some of the questions, trying to do the best that we can do. A lot of this stuff I inherited, so we're doing the best that we can with what we have to work with, but we have to also remember that we must make sure that our buildings are to capacity. And so that is something that is key in all of this. And so we're hoping that the pre-K, that we have a great deal of our families already with us. We're just shifting from from half to full day. So hopefully our families will want to work with us on a full-time basis for pre-K. And if we just had what we have currently half-time, if we just had a half of that or all of that, then we would need to keep one or both of those buildings open, and we would have pre-K within each of our clusters as well. So that registration we are sending that out. That'll be open this week so our families can begin to start registering, and so that we'll know how many kids approximately we might have that would want full-day pre-K. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Are there questions? Member Hall.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a quick question. Regarding the redistricting and children being transported to different schools, such as like Mason or David Hill, or the closing of Firestone Elementary to another school. If a parent has a conflict with that, what is their procedure? Like, say a child is closer to David Hill, but they may have to go to Mason, maybe because of an oversight, or maybe because it's full now because more kids live closer to David Hill. How do we address those parents that have those concerns?
I'll let Dr. Lash respond, but they can open enroll, but I'll let her share that because that's her area. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson, and that's exactly what I would say. They can definitely apply for the special open enrollment if they are closer to one school over the other.
Okay. Yeah. And then one more question. With the transition of the 2 miles, I know that's state required, but for those kids that may have gone to the National Inventors Hall of Fame school or to a different school, and now they're no longer out of the 2 mile radius, and now parents have to transport them to school versus being able to get on the bus. How do we work through that? Because some parents may, in their mind all these years, they're like, get on the bus, and now it's, how do I get you to school?
Okay, I can help you with that, Ms. Hall. And, excuse me, I have a slight cold, so I apologize. The first, we want to find out exactly what location is assigned to the new address with the changes that are in this proposal. From there, we upload the information from our database in eSchool to our routing transportation program, and it helps determine who is eligible for or not eligible for. And so that's how we then notify a parent whether they're eligible or not. And we were working on in the background as we do this as we would send out the notification, we might be able to say that you're eligible or not, but we cannot make you a bus stop until we can do the bus routes. And those sometimes are not done until our normal notification period, which is in July. But we are looking at several areas of this so that we can make sure that we also, once we get the required transportation set up, what safety issues may arise that we have concerns with. We get a little flexibility to deal with some safety issues when it comes across major streets that we put into place for safety purposes, and those have to be done after the regular routing. So it's a case-by-case basis for any parent who may be changing, as an example, from Robinson to either David Hill or Mason, or from Firestone Park to the 3 surrounding schools. So we need to get those actual addresses assigned to the schools so we know exactly what is eligible or not. Did that help answer the question?
It does. Thank you so much.
You are welcome.
And high school, they don't get transportation anyway, right? Is that?
They do not, but we offer Metro bus passes to any student 9 through 12. The parent comes down and fills out an application. We actually create the bus pass, and that bus pass is good for that student from the time they are enrolled in 9th grade through the end of their 12th grade year, and they're actually available to use 365 days a year because we wanted to make an opportunity for our students to seek a job, to go to the U to do research, to also do other events. And this is a very efficient way of doing it, and it has also taught our high school students how to use public transportation because many of our students may have a resulting transport at college or something that involves public transport as well.
Okay, thank you. You know, I'm still new, so I'm asking these questions.
No, that's what I'm here for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any
And
other questions?
To
Oh.
your, I'm sorry, President Autry, to your point, it's important for me if we're able to do it to provide the transportation, but it wouldn't just be for STEM, it would be for all of our high school scholars because we have children in other buildings who haven't been able to get to the university. They have to take classes online. Thank goodness to many of our teachers who are certified to be able to teach these courses actually in the regular high school. If we could get more teachers to do that, that would be even better help, but that's something the teacher would have to want to do, and we could work with them in trying to make that happen. But it's just, I was just looking at if we are able. Again, I've made no guarantees because I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but the team is working to see how we can at least provide some transportation during the day. We wouldn't be, because we don't have enough buses and we don't have enough drivers to do it all day and just kind of run that route. Because if we could do that, that would make it so much easier. The kids wouldn't have to worry about anything. They could just catch the bus and we could pick them up. But unfortunately, we don't have the buses and we don't have the drivers. But we're just trying to do what we can in the middle of the day, which may be a big help to some kids. It may or may not, but we're trying.
Vice President Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, just for clarity, I think it came across because we're talking about 2 separate sets of children, elementary students who are redistrict and then high school students. And I just wanted it clarified. I think you kind of highlighted, Madam Chair, because I'm sitting right here and they start running together. So just for people at home, because traditionally, and I think this is what Superintendent alluded to, high school students are not, the current STEM, high school students don't receive bus stop. They don't have bus stops assigned to them. Ms. Falk talked about this also in our previous meeting, but they get bus passes. Our high school students get bus passes. this is their this is a standard operating procedure for our high school students in our district. They move on bus passes. The middlers and the the middle school students and the elementary students are, what I'm understanding, when I'm hearing about safety concerns, where bus stops will be, I'm thinking about middle, elementary kids who are being redistricted. Then we have to, as Ms. Falk talked about, determine where are their stops at, because that becomes a real concern, because with daylight savings, some kids are out at bus stops, by 6:02, they have to be at their bus stop and it's still dark out. And if they're the only one, so I understand it. I just wanted to be clear, because I think that it's the community, some people in the community are, and like you said, you're making no guarantees, but when they hear that about busing, and it was all running together, like we were talking about bus routes for high schoolers as well, when that is not the standard, just so I'm clear that we're talking about, that's not standard for the high schoolers. They get bus passes throughout the district. So I just wanted to make sure that was plain.
Thank you for that clarification. Are there any other comments or questions? Dr. Molnar?
Yes, I have a few questions, but I want to start with, in the agenda when I opened this, it said revise. So would you please highlight for me, it's 44 slides and 3 presentations, 3 people and 3 presentations, highlight for me which part of this is revised and which parts of this were here for the second reading?
So the part that was added from the last time when we were here February 9th, I think, it was 12th, February 12th. February 12th, we just added on the expansion of pre-K and programming we may or may not need to leave the building open, those 2 buildings open. So that
it's just one slide different?
It's this slide here. In here, that last bullet.
Okay.
That's the change from, and then we had added in the date for special open enrollment, for if that were to happen. And then we also took out the piece as it relates to the naming of STEM high school.
Thank you. So as it is new information presented today, the may or may not require Stewart and Essex to remain open. It was my understanding that the board's vote to close Stewart and Essex was what established the need for redistricting to begin with. So is this saying that throughout all of the other changes that are happening now, we also aren't going to close Stewart and Essex? We're not going to do what we voted to do?
Yes, we are still, I would think, doing because Firestone Park was voted on to be closed. That's still closing. Those kids are still moving.
Yeah, and
Harris Jackson is still moving. So just like we asked for OT to remain open, that's the same thing that we were saying here. If in the event that we have more, because with going full-time, we would need the space. So if we have more kids who want full-time opportunities, then that's the reason why we're asking. If that were to be the case, then we would leave these 2 buildings or one of these 2 buildings open, with still placing a pre-K classroom within each of the clusters, as we were going to do anyway. If the board decided that they wanted to close both of those buildings, that's the board's privilege and their choice to do that. But we might limit the number of students that we could put in full-time pre-K. So if we can't do that, then we would have to say to some people that we don't have the space for them. So that's why we were asking in here to leave one or both of the buildings, but we wouldn't know that until kids actually registered. Then we would know which one or both of those buildings that we would need to close.
Yeah, because the board did vote to close those buildings a few
And
months
they voted
ago.
to close Odd as well.
Yes. So this is the first time that we are seeing that they may or may not remain open, and so we're going to vote on whether they may or may not. Schrodinger's.
It's
school
based
opening.
upon the number of students that are registering for pre-K for full-time.
And when would we know that?
Well, that's going to go out this week, actually Wednesday. That's going to be released for parents on Wednesday. And so as we were going through this, which we're studying this almost daily or for sure weekly, that's when we looked at the numbers. And if we had the numbers of students that wanted full-time, then we wouldn't have space for them. So that's the reason, again, why we're asking if in the event that we have the numbers that would require one or both of these buildings to be left open in conjunction with what would already be going in the regular buildings within the clusters, then we would need to leave the building or buildings open.
And you're saying Wednesday we would know? if
No,
we
I
would
said
or would
Wednesday
not?
is when it's going out.
When it's going out.
Right. It'll be open for about 3 weeks, so we won't know until the closing of this. And parents can still do it even over the summer, but at least by then, we should hopefully have an idea of about how many students whose parents are going to want full-time pre-K. We also are offering full part-time, although we would like for everyone to be full-time, but if they want part-time, that will be an option for this year. But if in the event that after this priority opening, parents can still say, May or June, I'd like my kid to go to pre-K in Akron Public Schools, and if we have the space, we're going to accept them. If we don't have the space, then we have to deny them or put them on a waiting list.
So I remember voting to close these buildings. I know I keep coming back to that, but I remember making that decision because I remember it being presented to us as we were talking about the levy, we're talking about our finances, as this is what we needed to do to save the money that, as we're going into debt, we need to save the $15 million. And do we have an idea of the cost of may or may not keeping these buildings open? Because from my recollection, personally for me, when I made that decision months ago, I had more than a day to consider it, and it was largely a numbers and financial decision.
And we're not asking you to vote tonight.
Thank you.
Did you have another question?
No, thank you.
Okay. But we can get that information for you because that part hasn't changed. But that was done before I got here. But we can get that information and share it with you in terms of whatever the savings was. But I'm not aware of any of that.
Thank you. Yes, I just would like time to process new information. Thank you.
Okay.
You would find those estimates on the LTOP plan that you approved. On that LTOP plan is where those estimates for closing any building would be located.
Any other questions?
We'll get it and get it to you.
Vice President Jackson?
Yes, I'll reference the LTOP as well, but I'll just following up on what Dr. Molnar was stating, only for the reason of I understand if determining enrollment of pre-K, how many people enroll will determine these buildings open. I think where my question comes in, even when we look at the finances, is that the condition of the buildings is one of the reasons, was a major reason for the closure of the buildings. Am I not? Because my recollection is a little hazy as well, because it was some time. But when we voted, I remember that being a thing, especially for Essex. I remember like water dripping down classroom walls. So even if we, the advantage of keeping these open is that we maybe can make some repairs without maybe getting into too costly. What would, I guess that's my question. How, if we're going to put a pre-K in the building, that we wouldn't have an elementary?
So I can maybe help if
Yes,
you give me a
please.
minute.
Thank you.
Essex, let's focus on Essex. Essex has a new roof. Essex has a brand-new parking lot in the back, which when we were taking Harris Jackson students over for K-level build instruction, we needed to provide the busing for, and we updated their playgrounds to make them, there's one on both sides of the building. So the building itself would service an ELP very easily if it was needed for space. Stewart is a little bit different. Stewart also had remediation to its roof. It had remediations to its parking lot. I will be honest with you, there is a modular unit. If we would want to consider removing that from the property, it should be done. It is not necessary for the use of the building. And should we need those kind of spaces again, Stewart could be used. It all depends on the enrollment. At the time that the board made the decision to close it, we did not have a general plan for looking at pre-K going all day. That was a new focus for the board and part of the new strategic plan. And there's some new state funding and remediation that is coming through the federal government regarding helping to support students that are younger than K level. So those were some of the options that came through as we were working through this process of redistricting, and we wanted the option and presented to the superintendent. Maybe we just needed some maneuverability to determine what was best for this program. I hope that helps.
That does help, because the question was one of finance. So we know with the younger, if I'm understanding you right, please excuse my back, Ms. Falk. It's just I have to speak in this mic and you're behind me.
That's fine.
As I'm understanding it, because it's federal money, there's government approved money that will come for the younger, like for pre-K programs. And so some of those funds we'll be able to use for those facilities that we would not have had access to.
We don't necessarily know all the criteria for those funds yet. We are just being told they may be available at the federal level. And of course, the state of Ohio has determined also that pre-K learning possibilities should be a focus. And I've recently, and this is just my personal opinion to you, the mayor has also focused that Akron should be one of those cities that follows some of the other cities within the state as well as the general area to improve our pre-K offerings. So we were trying to make sure we had the flexibility if possible if there was an interest by our parents. And I will say, having worked with this issue prior, we've had some parents who have really needed full-day pre-K, and when offered a space and it wasn't full-day, they decided not to come to us directly and looked for another alternative. So we were trying to service the needs of our students at that age as well as our community.
Thank you, Ms. Falk.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? I had a quick question about the special enrollment period. Do we know how long that would be open?
Is it 3 weeks?
Yes, we anticipate 2 weeks to
2
leave
weeks?
that. Yes. Did you say 3?
I thought it was said 3 earlier.
That's when we talked about the kindergarten.
Okay.
For 3 weeks. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Vice President.
Yes, about that open enrollment, the marketing to make sure that parents are really clear and informed of this window. We have that already kind of rolled out, because I think that's the worst part if they don't know anything.
Lash can speak to it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lash.
Yes. We have a whole plan in place to include, of course, our socials, our social medias, our website, all calls, text messaging, letters via mail, in all of our languages. Our, again, working behind the scenes, our special open enrollment application is, I think, in 10+ languages. And so as you can imagine, one change, means, changes. But yes, we have thought about that and want to be very intentional and make sure that our families do have the information that they need so that they can make the best informed decision. Thank you, Dr. Lash. You're welcome.
Madam Chair, President, so we're going to send the letter home this week to our families, just reemphasizing this again, which we have already done. We've sent letters home to the families in the schools where the kids are impacted, but we're going to be sending it home to all families in APS. And over the course of this time, we may or may not be able to tell you how many kids, or we could at least give you an update as to how many kids are registering rather for pre-K, which may even help us in determining one or both or neither of the buildings that we would ask to leave open. I just also want to caution us once we close them, and if you decide that you want to reopen them again, you're going to be reopening them under new standards. So, and we are also asking again for OT building to remain and the proposal to remain. And it is just a proposal because things constantly are changing, but we, I think, have done as much as we are able to do and can do. We've really heard a lot, and we tried our best to hear what our families have had to say. We've done the best that we could do. I don't think that there is a lot more that would be left for us, options. We basically have no other options for what we propose. So the only additional piece that might appear here would be the name, which again, I would certainly be sharing that with our STEM families proposed when I'm able to share that information, and then we can bring that and include that. But that would be the only thing that might be added to this proposal. So that may require us to have one or two call meetings for this purpose, but I want to make sure that we are 100%, we have done everything that we need to do, which we've had several meetings with families. I've actually met with the high school scholars myself, and so I can feel assured that we have communicated, but we're going to give it one final round again. And this time, it'll be sent to all families in our district, including the ones that are really impacted by this. And then, again, this presentation will be on the website. As the other ones have been, we've updated. So that's just sort of rested there for people if they wanted to see it. So they'll be able to see it again. And then we'll come back to you with proposed dates so that we can finalize this, because this is really going to push us back, and some of the things that we need to get done in order for other things to be done. For example, the Cropter piece, we've tried to go ahead and do some of that work ahead of time, but when it comes to all of the stuff that has to go in Power School, East School, I'm sorry, that's East School, right? Yeah. Yes. The things that need to go in there so that we could actually start determining who gets transportation, who doesn't, start registration. High schools need it in order for them to start, well, all the schools do, but especially high school, secondary for master scheduling purposes. So all of those things will get, and staffing will sort of get delayed. We're going to do the best we can to kind of massage around these things, but this is where we are with the current state of it. And the team, I want to say thank you to them, because they have been working overtime in trying to make this all possible for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. And again, thank you to the team. I've been here through a lot of these presentations, and so I appreciate the hard work that you've put into this. these decisions aren't always easy, but that's why we're here around this table. And so, with us being such a large district, things have to keep moving. And so just keeping that in mind, we're not voting on it tonight. So we do have another opportunity for any further questions you might get from community. Make sure that we get those so that we can be timely with a lot of these decisions that have to be made to keep this district moving forward every single day. So thanks again to the team. And so with that, we will move to item 5 on the agenda. Approval of the previous meeting minutes. I will entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes for Monday, February 12th, 2024. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Alexander. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Mr. Perry. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please. Dr. Thompson.
Ms. Hall.
Yes.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mrs. Sykes.
Yes.
Dr. Molnar.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Ms. Autry.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Moving on to personnel recommendations, items 6 through 17. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, President Autry. I wish to recommend approval of the personnel recommendations presented in categories 6 through 17. And I would also like to note the retirements of Mr. Rob Boxler, Krista Beth Boxler, and Lester Nash.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the personnel recommendations?
I move to approve those.
It's been moved by Mr. Perry. Is there a second?
A second.
It's been seconded by Ms. Hall. Is there any discussion? Ms. Hall?
Thank you, Madam President. I just have a quick question. When we review these documents of retirements or resignations and things like that, are we in process of replacing these teachers and staffs, like the ones that retire, or?
It depends.
Okay.
It depends. Some positions could be replaced. Some may not be replaced. It just depends.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion?
I have a question.
Mr. Perry?
Mr. Superintendent, we discussed earlier that our own Larry Johnson is going to be changing positions. What's the difference between his old position and his new one that he is expected to start tomorrow?
So the current position that Mr. Johnson is currently in is a supervisor of principals of schools. And what he's going to be doing now is, if board approved, he will be working with human capital a great deal, but that is going to be a whole entire different division all by itself, where he's going to be working with our pipeline programs for those that want to be principals and assistant principals, our professional development. He will also be working with the recruitment with human capital. And it's a whole litany of things that he's going to be doing as well. Okay. But the main pieces is definitely around the recruitment and making sure that we also have those pipelines in place. But there will be a whole host of other things. The PAR program will fall under him. It's currently under Teaching and Learn Division of Academics, but it will be shifting over to the work that he's going to be doing. And he will be working with human capital as well. Okay. On a lot of the work that Miss Angela, this is the position that our current chief of staff used to have. But the position was changed. There were some changes made to the job expectations. And so the interviews went forth, and so Mr. Johnson is being recommended.
The other thing was the MTSS coordinator. I see that it was revised maybe 12 days ago. What are the revisions in that?
So the MTSS, that's a multi-tier system of supports. Those are going to be the coordinators that will be working across the entire district. And so we're working, and right now, those positions are going to be funded out of our title funds. We're hoping that we don't have to use any type of general funds because we're trying not to do that. But what they're going to be doing is working with schools significantly with their data as it relates to attendance, academics, discipline data, the social emotional learning, as well as the implementation of that. We are not implementing it with fidelity across the entire district as we should. It's happening in pockets, but what we're trying to do is bring it all together under one umbrella, which is the multi-tier systems of supports.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I just wanted to acknowledge in item 6.2 the retirement of Elizabeth Terrell. She's a science teacher that I had the opportunity to work with very closely at Bookdale, at the old Bookdale, and then transitioning even to the new Bookdale. You have to imagine what it's like to move from a building in place since 1934 to a new building, which we did in 2012, and she was part of that. She was an amazing science teacher. She was my daughter's science teacher, who's now 32 years old. So I just wanted to wish her well in her retirement and thank her for all that she's poured into students over the years. That being said, Dr. Thompson, roll call, please.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mrs. Sykes.
Yes.
Dr. Molnar.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Ms. Autry.
Yes, but abstain from 9.2.
Ms. Hall.
Yes.
All motions carry 7-0 with an abstention on 9.260, abstention.
Thank you. And just quickly, before we move on to the next session, it was brought to my attention that we had one of the cheer coaches in the audience. And so I just wanted her to stand up so that we can acknowledge her from Firestone in their 12th place. Thank you very much. Next, we have approval and resolutions and motions in our consent agenda. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge and thank you, board. I'm doing the best that I can with what I have to work with. Trying not to put new positions, but trying to repurpose the ones that we have in order to get some of the work done. But there will be a time when I will have to bring new positions necessary for us to move the work. But I just wanted to acknowledge Mr. Johnson as the Executive Director of Talent and Organizational Development and Recruitment. Can you stand, Mr. Johnson? Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, President Autry. I'd like to recommend approval of the resolutions and motions presented in Category 22. They are in the proper format, and I move their approval. What I also would like to note here is that due to the timing, this would be minus approval of anything relating redistricting or restructuring.
Thank you. Dr. Robinson, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Madam President, can we identify exactly what we're not voting on, what we're withdrawing?
The 22.8?
Looks like it's been removed.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it has.
It's been removed, so it's no longer.
It's not even on here anymore? Okay, perfect.
I'm sorry,
Thank
it's
you.
not on the electronic version, but
No, it's not.
22.8.
I was just making that known for the public
It's on
that
mine.
you were not voting on something that initially they saw.
Okay, thank
Better
you.
refresh, I guess. Okay, 22.8. Is it not on you?
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Alexander. Is there a second?
A second.
It's been seconded by Ms. Hall. Is there any discussion? I just have to mention our continued donations and support in item 20.1. Lots of support went to the Firestone cheer team, and it just shows the support and partners that we do have across the district. And there were a lot of other donations as well that I just wanted to mention. And then also item 20.3, a grant from AMHA that we are receiving. It's actually an additional funding to expand our summer programming in our elementary buildings. We appreciate that very much. And then also item 20.5, there's a grant that we are receiving to support our refugee population. And so we have a lot of partners, we have a lot of support, and I just wanted to say that out loud and thank those grantors for providing that support to us. That being said, roll call please. Dr. Thompson.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mrs. Sykes,
Yes.
Dr. Molnar,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Autry,
Yes.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Next is our business affairs recommendations. Dr. Robinson.
Yes, thank you, President Autry. We have two presentations. And Mr. Henshaw, our Director for Technology, will be doing these two presentations, and I think Ms. Deborah is going to be working with him. And one is on the Chromebooks, and the other one is on the Raptor system.
Good evening, board members, members of the community staff, and members watching our live stream. I'm Zach Henshaw. I'm the Executive Director of the IT Division here at Akron Public Schools. And I've got two presentations for you all back to back. This first presentation is solo. And then whenever we go into our second presentation, I'll ask my colleagues to come up as we begin that. So the first topic is transforming Chromebook procedures in our school district. So I've been with the district now a little over 7 months, and this is a process that I've been working on since late August, early September, as I learned about Chromebooks in our district, the numbers behind them, and kind of the systemic reform that we need to do as a district moving forward. Now, before I jump into sharing some of the data and numbers with you all, I want to make sure it's apparent that the issues and a couple things that you're going to see is not solely an Akron Public Schools issue. It's a nationwide issue. And it's our responsibility to make sure that we're adjusting processes and procedures to combat this moving forward. So again, this directly relates into Cornerstone 3 of our Blueprint for Excellence strategic plan around operational excellence. As we're talking about finances and budgeting, you'll see throughout the presentation of how the numbers and the strategies and procedures we're putting in place directly relate to operational excellence. Kind of introduction I just went over, but we're going to talk about the current situation of Chromebooks in our district, rationale for the change that we need to take, the proposed changes, benefits of the change, and then at a high level implementation plan. And then at the end, of course, we'll turn it over to the board members for a Q&A session. Current situation. As you all know, we are a one-to-world Chromebook program, K-12. Currently, devices go home every day at all grade levels, and devices go home during the summertime. As you will see as we're walking through this presentation, the district faces challenges such as loss and damaged Chromebooks. If you take a look at the graphic right below this, this is the number of devices lost over the past 6 years at APS. As you can see, it's an all-time total of 9,835 Chromebooks, which equates to $2.3 million. You can see that growing year after year. So this is evidence that we need to make a systemic change in our Chromebook procedure. Now, we do our due diligence in regards to this number you're seeing here, meaning every single device that it's marked as lost or stolen, we file a police report with the serial numbers, so we're doing our due diligence to ensure that we're trying to get those Chromebooks back. In addition, all of those devices are put into a locked mode. So the next time that they are booted up and connect to the Wi-Fi, there's a nice message on there that says that this device is lost. Please return it to 10 North Main Street. It has our phone number, so it's unusable. As I go further into the presentation, you're going to see some other data points around DPR, so that refers to damage beyond repair. So Chromebooks, whether it's accidental damage or intentional damage of those numbers, as well as devices that are damaged and we repair here on site. So the rationale for change. One of the main goals is the reduction of the amount of damaged and lost Chromebooks. We want to ensure that we have equitable access to technology and processes district-wide at all times. And then we want to ensure we can streamline device management during the school year and the summer. So a lot of this loss and damage occurs during the summertime. So whenever we start at the beginning of the school year, there's sometimes an unknown number of devices being broken, lost, and it's very difficult to start a school year out as such. In addition, as you will see, one of the proposed changes is related to summertime. So the data, kind of wanted to share a data point, shows that the majority of Chromebook usage during the summertime is non-instructional and non-educational. And what I mean by that is here's a snapshot of this past year, past summer, a 30-day time period. So you can see the majority of use here of what Chromebooks are being utilized for during the summertime. So, two of the major proposed changes for this coming year. Looking at doing a K-5 CART implementation district-wide. So, looking at we're in a post-pandemic world, we're looking at moving back to a pre-pandemic world with modifications. So, introducing the Chromebook carts back into the classrooms. We've had conversations with principals. We've had conversations with think tank and senior leadership around this. We've surveyed the principals, try to engage, okay, here's some ideas. What's your ideas? And try to get that feedback with them. The majority of elementary principals surveyed are in favor of a K-5 building cart implementation district-wide. So what that would mean is devices stay at school every day. Devices still assigned to individual students, but kept in classroom carts. So we would still have that one-to-one program around our district, but how we're managing and handling those Chromebooks during those K-5 grade levels would look slightly different. In addition to that, proposing K-8 devices to stay at school over the summertime. So K-5 devices would fit into the CART implementation. They would be staying there during the school day anyway. So you're looking at 6th, 7th, and 8th graders where the devices would stay at the school over the summer and then redeployment at the beginning of the school year. So we would have, again, inventory and pickup at the end of the year so we can assess the Chromebooks at large. We can have a better understanding for budgeting purposes and for making sure that we have a smooth rollout at the beginning of the school year. We'd have, again, deployment during open houses in that first week of school. And then for our building level technology support specialists, which is our TSSs, I would allocate part of my other team during that first week of school to ensure that we can get those devices out as quickly as possible. So kind of benefits of the change. You can see that first line item, number of devices lost, stolen, K-5 buildings, FY23, 670 devices. Number of devices damaged beyond repair. Again, you got two different types of damaged devices. Damaged beyond repair, which is a device we have to retire because there's a significant amount of damage to it, versus ones that we can repair in-house. So you're looking at $950 there. Total dollar amount for those devices, $324,000. Now, if we're under the assumption of a zero device, lost, stolen, damaged after CART implementation, that is something we should always be striving for. Honestly, we will never get to the zero device, damaged, lost, stolen, because accidents happen, things happen. But we want to go under the assumption that we can. That should be a goal we're striving for. With the CART implementation cost, K-5, so we would be paying $343,000 to ensure that we have low-profile carts for our classrooms. Kind of look at the return on investment based on zero devices lost and stolen. You would look at, we'd be paying evidently $19,000 for the first year. We would be making our money back second year, and then looking over a 4-year time period of close to $1 million in savings. So at a very high level, implementation plan. So of course, pending board approval, it's agenda item 24.8, so it's CDW. That is actually the purchase of the Chromebook parts. I want to make note wherever I say funding is available from budgeted account FY24, so we have technology funds already budgeted for technology. So this is not going to eat into the cash reserves that we have for the district. It's not going to put into any financial hardship. This is money allocated already to technology. Developing Chromebook procedures and guidelines. So in the past, there's kind of been bits and pieces of guidance out there that we're following. I have tasked my team for the last several months of we're building out this procedure plan. It's about 30 pages right now. And it goes over clear, consistent guidelines that's utilized across the entire district. It consists of everything with Chromebook care, which is very basic of how to care for Chromebooks, talking about the fine charge notification structure, extenuating circumstances. So what I mean by that, we're going to have scenarios and guidance built in to the guidelines of, okay, K-5 devices now are carts. What if there's a project at 4th grade and a Chromebook needs to go home? Those guidance and those scenarios will be built into the guidelines. So it's not going to be restrictive of any type of academia or on the curriculum side that the device can go home to be utilized for a project or homework. Again, or additionally, implementing Chromebook sign-off for parents and students. So we just want to increase that accountability, increase that transparency and notification to the parents so the parents understand that the Chromebooks are a supplement to education. That's something that really needs to be taken care of. So again, we're just trying to increase that the parents and guardians sign off on this form. They understand there's a charge structure behind it if something happens to the device. And again, just increasing that transparency and notification. And of course, with our good friends in communications division, we'll have a communication plan that will go out to students and families and staff, notifying them ahead of time, hey, this is the changes, these are the reasons why, and then kind of developing that and pushing that out. I'm gonna kind of rapid fire through some of that, try to get some data points to you all so that you all understand the reasoning why we need to make some systemic changes here around Chromebook procedures. Again, this is not Akron specific. We see this around the nation. We did research. I did research in my teams. We're seeing a lot of districts make that transition from post-pandemic back to pre-pandemic, because as you all know, during the pandemic, school districts were fueled to go to one-to-one because of remote learning. So we're taking that step, readdressing our situation, and making some changes so that we're good fiscal agents. We're understanding what changes need to be made, and we're making sure we have that reduction in lost devices and damaged devices. I'm going to turn it over to you all for questions and answers.
Thank you for that presentation. Are there any questions, Mr. Alexander?
Yeah, I had two questions, but you answered one, so thank you.
Okay.
The other one, what happens if there's calamity days and the kids are home during that time and they need to get their work done? How you guys handle that?
Good question. So that's actually currently in conversation. I'm having conversations with the academia curriculum and division side as well, we're going to have, that's actually one of our topics on the guidance document. We're going to have details in there. I can't give you a specific answer related to that, but that's already going to be part of the guidance document. I can follow you up with the specific detail on what that's going to look like. You're welcome.
Any other? Mr. Perry.
So Zach, my kids have had the Chromebooks, for years now, and I'm used to them bringing them home, and obviously they've been able to take care of them over the years. The survey you said went out to the principals of the schools who said they were in favor of this, the majority of them. What were the reasons the other ones didn't want to do it?
Good question. So without going back, I can get that answer for you. I can go back. There's a lot of detail in it. So more or less, we gave kind of some options, K-5, recommendation. I've gave the presentation of, hey, this is where our number's at. So I think that kind of put in perspective, like at large at a district, we shouldn't be losing $2.3 million over time. So I think that's one of the things of how the schools are managing that. And what I mean by that is if a device gets lost or stolen, we'll issue a new Chromebook, right? So if the Chromebook carts are sitting there, they're not going home, less likely to get damaged going from the cart to the chair, less likely to go home. So just hopefully answers kind of part of your question. Okay. So I can get more details on the others. On the other side.
Overall, because in one of your slides, you were saying that, again, most of the principals were in favor of us doing this and leaving the Chromebooks at the school. And I'm just curious about the ones that didn't.
Yeah, I can get more details around that for you. Absolutely.
Also, Mr. Perry, I understand more than people think I do our population and our kids and what they need. And we have to weigh that against what we are able to continue to do for them. So they're not getting denied. And so if I had to take it home, there will be procedures, we need stiffer accountability around what that's going to look like when it goes home and making sure that it comes back. But the concern, is what are they going to do in terms of some of the work that that they normally would do at home. So that's not going to stop, and that's something we're going to have to work with teachers on. But at the same time, we can't afford to continue as a district. Like some kids have had 3 and 4 Chromebooks issued, and they never paid any fines. We just gave them another one, and just gave them another one, and gave them another one. Broken, lost, stolen, I don't know where it is, and we just gave them another one. But it comes a point in time that, unfortunately, we have to do something. So even if they have a project or something that that they're going to need it for, technology will be working with the schools on what that guidance is going to look like. But it may not be the same as kids just freely having them. They'll have them during the day like they normally do, but it won't necessarily be going home every day with them the way that it is right now.
Got it. Thank you.
And that's going to be a change, and we'll work through it with our families and our kids, and hopefully, we're able to come back from some of this, the loss that we've incurred over the last couple of years.
And we would expect it to start this coming school year then?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, this summer. And
They would leave them at school over
we
the summer.
look at doing the communication ASAP, and we would look at doing the pickup at the end of this school year for the devices K through 8. And then the deployment, we would already have the carts, everything set up for the K-5 buildings at the beginning of the year. And then we'd have a deployment strategy for 6th, 7th, and 8th for that first week in open houses where we'll have our TSSs there so we can ensure that devices are out and ready to go that first week.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Alexander.
Exactly. I'm sure you guys are already looking at this here, and I hope this never happens again because it was bad. But just in case we get COVID again, looking at the plan for something like that.
Yes.
Okay.
good question, and that's part of the guidance document as well. We have pandemic area on what would that look like if something would occur, because those are strategies we need to think about. Hopefully nothing like that ever occurs again, but we need to have those strategies in place of how we can quickly get those devices out to the students on those. Yep, that's on our documentation.
Any other questions? Dr. Molnar?
Yes, I also have a couple kids who take Chromebooks home every single day, and I know it showed that, in the summer, the majority of time that the students were spending on the Chromebooks was on YouTube, but I do want to add a caveat for the viewers watching on our live stream right now. Not everything you do on YouTube is non-instructional.
True.
There are many important things that you can learn. I learned how to refinish hardwood floors once on YouTube. Lots of things that can be done, and so I'm thinking about student use of their Chromebooks over the summer and some of the rationale of having one-to-one devices, some of the benefits of that, and it's also to increase familiarity specifically with their Chromebooks. If a student is at home using a laptop or a PC or something else, that operates very differently than the app-based machine that is a Google Chromebook. And that's for the students that have access to another device at home. During the pandemic, we learned that a lot of families did not have, we had to do hotspots and all kinds of things like that. So in the guidance document, is there or might there be a caveat for if a student wanted or needed to check out a device for the summer, and that they would use that for instructional purpose?
So we've had, great question, we had discussion around that as well. What if there would be a scenario? And those are scenarios we are talking about on the curriculum side and operational side of what that would look like. Yeah, so there's, wherever I say that this has kind of been my project I've been reviewing since I've got here as these numbers came about, and I've been investigating it. For the past several months, we've had conversations around each of these areas. So we want to be very conscientious of the changes we want to make, because it's clear we have to make a systemic change and reform of what we're currently doing. So we're taking into each every detail possible as we go through the process.
Yeah, if I can follow up, I agree. $2 million is more money than I have, so it's nothing to bat an eye at. But at the same time, being cognizant of learning loss and gaps, and summer is the time for those gaps. So looking out for those students as a priority. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions? Vice President Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have a question. I have a comment, and someone can get clarification. I recall, this has been some time ago now, my daughter attended STEM Middle School, and at STEM Middle School, they returned their devices at the end of the year. They kept their same device with them. They got their same device back throughout the whole course of their time when they came as a 5th grader through an 8th grader. But at the end of the year, they turned them in, they were serviced, and then they would get their devices back. The only reason I bring that up because is that no longer a standard operating procedure? And if so, why wouldn't we just duplicate something that's already in place at one of our schools as in regards to the end up as far as summer? That's one part of my question. And I know that you're new, but again, please excuse my back, but.
No, you're good. So prior to, I'll say pre-pandemic, there was a lot of those processes in place on what you're describing, Ms. Jackson. And so we're looking at re-implementing some of those things and standards. Right now, the STEM middle school does go home each day and goes home throughout the summer time. But in addition to that, because STEM Middle School is technically considered as a middle school building, it would not fall into this K-5 building structure on the CART changes. It would only be affected by the summertime CART implementation. But again, to your point, we will have those processes and procedures in place on what specifically, how that would look on the device pickup, inventory, reviewing, and the reissuing at the beginning of the school year.
Another thing for consideration too is that, outside is a wonderful place. Back in my day, some time ago, we really enjoyed the outdoors and looking at the grass and trees and things like that in the summertime. And there's a lot of scientific inquiry and physical fitness and things that can happen in the outdoors. And there could be lessons that go home that kind of expand upon that, or things that are in the home that doesn't require necessarily technology, just for consideration. Additionally, the Chromebook staying at school. Another thing that I know as a school administrator and as visiting schools, often the frustration of many teachers is that these students take their Chrome devices home and they come back uncharged.
Correct.
And so now when they're supposed to be using them for instructional time, it becomes an issue with them having to then charge these devices. So there is a lot of discussion that can be had around Chromebooks, and yes, technology can be a plus, but also learning without technology is possible and has happened for centuries in an effective way, and that technology can be an asset, not necessarily that it's needed every day. I think we can maximize it, but thank you.
Absolutely. And just a quick comment, last comment on that. I've visited, I'm going to say 98% of our buildings. I've sat down with our building level technology support specialists around this topic over a month, 2 months time span. Like, from your building perspective, tell me, how's Chromebooks going? What's going on? And the biggest thing, to Ms. Jackson's point, is you're seeing these kids that come in, they don't have the chargers, or the device isn't charged and ready to go, and then that kind of cuts into instructional time. So with the implementation, of course, with the cards, devices will be charged, ready to go first thing in the morning.
Thank you. I just wanted to add, too, as you're developing the guidelines, you have some of those parents, I think my daughter's probably one of them, who's going to, well, I want my child to have some extra help, or I think they need to work on that. Or you might even have the scholars themselves who feel like they want that opportunity. So hopefully there's space within those guidelines to allow for that. And then secondly, I just want to apologize for my contribution, because I just got a second Chromebook today. But I've had it since 2020, so I promise I didn't break it, but it just decided it was done. So
You've been billed, by the way.
any other comments or questions on this presentation?
Okay, thank you all. With that being said, I'll invite Deb Falk and Don Zessinger up for the second presentation. So the second presentation is in regards to visitor management system district-wide. I have up here with me Ms. Deborah Falk, is Executive Director of Business Affairs, and Mr. Don Zessinger, Director of Safety and Security. As we go through this presentation, you'll see with the introduction of a visitor management system to our school district, it directly relates to 3 of our cornerstones in our blueprint for excellence: cultural safety and belonging, cornerstone 1; operational excellence, cornerstone 3; partnerships, family, and community engagement, cornerstone number 4. We're going to have talk about an introduction from our Director of Security. We're going to talk about the benefits of Raptor Technologies, which is the company that we've selected for the visitor management system, and we'll talk about the RFP process and the due diligence we did behind that. We're going to dive into the specifics of what is a visitor management system and what is it not. At a very high level, we're going to talk about the implementation process, the training support, and the cost breakdown. And again, at the very end, we'll turn it over to you all for a Q&A session. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Don for a welcome message.
Welcome, everyone, to our presentation. As a lot of you are aware, we've done a lot in our district to improve safety and security for our students, our teachers, our administrators, parents, all visitors to our building. We have X-ray bag scanners, we have walk-through metal detectors, we have a Centegix badge alert system, which can help us in the event of a medical emergency with a child or a visitor to our building. or if there's a potential physical conflict that we need help with, we can summon someone immediately to help us with that. We have bullet-resistant material that we put on glass in our buildings. We have yonder bags that have helped us manage cell phones in our buildings. We also have door alarms so that our screening process can't be circumvented. And we can make sure that everyone coming to school each day is safe in their building. So with the visitor management system, we're really talking about an additional layer of support to the things that we've already implemented. I think significantly, this technology that I just spoke of, we've implemented at the middle school and high school level. So it stands to reason that the elementary schools are saying, hey, what about us? You know, we want some technology in our schools as well. And a lot of them have reached out to me with great interest in the visitor management system. I know Dr. Thompson and I did a presentation at Findlay in particular last school year to talk about it, and they were very interested. And they remind me through emails, hey, when is this coming? Because we think this could be a great benefit to us. So the interest is there, and we want to provide this technology to them to help them do their jobs better. So, and we're already doing this, but what we're interested in doing is transforming the paper to the digital. And this, as I say, this will help. The secretaries are the main folks that are involved in this process. It will help them do it more efficiently, more effectively. And the goal is in enhancing safety. So I will have Deborah Folk explain to you the RFP process that we went through to get this system.
Good evening again. Excuse me. We actually wrote an RFP for this. It is a large set of criteria to put an RFP together. We researched exactly what we wanted and wrote a scope of work that not only met what we felt was needed, but would also be implemented with the programming we already had available. We put that out on the street in September, and we received a wealth of inquiries through this process, and we received 5 vendor bids. At that time, we vetted those 5 vendor bids, including actually meeting with each vendor across several platforms, including meetings with technology staff and other people that would understand exactly what they were offering, including myself, Mr. Leonard, and the technology crew. We then ranked those and did actual research with other school districts, including other people that we knew that had various types of programs in similar fashion. And we determined that we wanted to move forward with the Raptor concept because it met several clear criteria for us, and that was what we're recommending to you tonight.
So as Deb just mentioned, Raptor Technologies was the vendor that came out on top. Just a little bit about the company. Founded in 2002 in Houston, Texas. They currently have 5,000 plus U.S. K-12 school districts. They have a 98% annual retention rate, and they screen roughly 500,000 visitors every day. So it does real-time monitoring, so automatic sex offender checks, and we'll touch base on that here in a second with Dawn about what it is and what it is not, so we have clear process and procedures and transparency on what that really means. So if there are checks, though, it can send out silent alerts via text messages or email to building administrators and security personnel. Streamlines the check-in process, so you can scan your ID. If you have your ID as you're coming into the building, or you can do a manual entry on the kiosk, and I'll show you kind of a picture of what that looks like here in a second. Enhanced reporting. So we'll know who's in our buildings at any time. So we can log into the system, pull a report to see who was in there, what reasoning, time frame. So if there's an emergency procedure or something goes on, we can have that list versus that paper log. Again, as Don was mentioning, it's that transitioning of that paper to that digital platform. ID badge printing. So as the visitor comes in, they register or they fill out the kiosk. It prints off a badge, your name, date stamp, and the picture of you, because it will take a picture of you on the Surface laptop on the kiosk. And then again, the big key point in regards to the RFP is integration into our current technologies. So Raptor technology pairs nicely with Clever, which is our single sign-on, and then eSchool, which is our student information system. So there's a lot of Ohio school districts that have visitor management systems. These are actually some of the school districts that utilize Raptor technologies for their visitor management system. So you see Cleveland Metropolitan, Lakota Local School District, Toledo, Westerville. I was actually touring Cleveland School of the Arts last week during the new build process, and they actually had the kiosk setting in their front area, so I got to experience that and see it in person. But you can see there on the right, that is what the kiosk would look like. That's the exact model we have quoted out, and that would set near the front office or at the vestibule. So I'm going to turn it over to Don to walk through exactly what is a visitor management system and what it is not.
Okay, so let's do a little deeper dive into that. So what it is designed to improve safety. The primary function is to enhance the safety of the school environment. With record keeping, the system keeps a digital record of individuals entering the school premise, name, entry, and exit times, and purpose of the visit. So we know who's coming into our building, why are they here, what time are they here, and when do they leave, which can be very advantageous because if something happens in our building, we need to know who's in there and why they're there and what time they were there. So it helps us with that. Identification provides a means of identifying and verifying visitors. Integration with district policy, it's going to align with our district policy and procedures. There's times when we have difficult situations within who's authorized to, we take the care and safety of our children very seriously. I mean, that's our most important responsibility. So we want to make sure if someone's coming to pick up that child, that they're authorized to do that. That's critically important. And, you know, we want to be able to tell parents, well, if there's a question, why was this person released to this guardian or this person that's authorized? So this will help us be efficient in that process. Okay, so what it is not, it's not a background check, okay? We're not running people's backgrounds when they come in. We don't want to identify every mistake they've made in their life. That's not what it's designed for. We already have a process for that we use for potential employees and people that want to volunteer in our system. That's a different thing. So we're not trying to exclude the public from our schools or our parents. We're trying to make it a safe environment. That's the intent of it. It's not a replacement for vigilance. It doesn't replace the need for human vigilance and security personnel. It complements existing security measures.
So implementation process, again, this is very high level. There'll be more details during the rollout process for our schools and staff members internally. But we're looking at doing a summer installation of the kiosk. So it'd be a Windows Service tablet on a kiosk stand, as you saw just a couple slides ago in that picture. This is directly related to agenda items 24.9 and 24.21. One of them is the actual Raptor technologies and software, and the other one is the hardware from CDW. Looking at doing a fall rollout, so this coming fall 2024 rollout to elementary schools, and then a spring rollout to secondary schools. And you can see a little asterisk there, and that could potentially be moved up. So what we would like to do is whenever that rollout occurs during the elementary, we want to address to see if there's any type of concerns, make sure those are fixed, and then roll out to secondary. If everything goes smooth, we can potentially move that secondary rollout up to early winter. We just have to address that as we go forward. Excuse me. So installation and technology configuration needs to be complete, though, by September 2024. As you will see here in a second with the cost breakdown, part of the cost is covered by ESSER funding. So we need to ensure we're following those guidelines to, this is the last round of ESSER, that everything has to be set up, installed, and configured by this date. Talk just briefly about training and support. So configuration, screen setups, connections. From the IT standpoint, we'll be working closely with the vendor to ensure the smooth connection between our existing technology and this new Raptor technology. We'd have IT training on my front, end-to-end installation of the hardware of the kiosk. We would have district and building administrator training. So this is something that Raptor will do with our district and building administrators, and they will base it not on a cookie cutter form, but they will actually take our procedures and processes working closely with Don, and they'll provide training around that, including our end users. So that will be training with our secretaries, the one in the front office there. We will have guidance and documentation up with Don, like, okay, what happens if you get an alert? There'll be scenarios specifically on what the end user is going to do. Besides the Raptor training that's provided, we're going to have additional training, in-person training, where we're having that communication with our building administrators and secretaries for one-on-one moving forward. And again, we'll have all the documentation provided with these scenarios, how to utilize the system, and so forth. So the cost breakdown. Let me zoom in a little bit there. So line items on the left, Raptor Visitor Management, you got your licenses, you've got the implementation fee, remote training fee, and then if you go down a couple items, this is your hardware that you're going to be buying, so your ID scanner, your barcode reader, and then your label printer that will be stationed that prints out the badges. Looking a little bit below that, you'll see our Windows tablet pricing, our floor stand mount for the kiosk, and that would be all with the physical. You see on the column that says Year 1 Grant ESSER. So this Year 1 would be funded by ESSER funding and a grant. So Don and I, we actually applied for a grant in early winter through the Attorney General's office. You'll see it near the second from the bottom row, FY24 AGO Tech Linking Grant, and we found out in January that we got awarded this grant. So this $30,000 would apply for the offset on helping us by the technology side, the software side of Raptor. So total first year price, $124,000. Again, this will be paid out of grant and ESSER funding. Moving forward into year 2 and year 3, because we've already bought the hardware and we've already had the training, so we'd be looking at just doing the software renewal. And that would be around $40,000. And that will be budgeted for FY24 in the security budget moving forward. Sure.
Because it's software, could that something that can be funded by E-rate?
No. Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
Yep, so E-rate, question was, could that be funded by E-rate? E-rate has very specific guidelines on that, and that, since it's technology software related to that, we couldn't fund that. Good question. And then that's kind of the end of the presentation, so we're going to turn it over to you all for questions, answers.
Mr. Perry?
Yeah, so our current system is, I've been to schools and we sign in, obviously, on the paper notepad that's there in the office. We put our name, our purpose for our visit. We have the little badges. What does the system do more than me? Is it I type my name in the system, it looks me up? Is it more than just I sign in, put my name, and that's it?
Yes, so you'd come into the vestibule. So we're not giving you entrance to our building until we've confirmed what your purpose is, and you're the person that's responsible for the care and custody of our student. Mm-hmm. So you'd scan your badge, your ID. If you don't have one, we do manual entry and make sure all your information makes sense and that you're the person that you say you are. And then we grant you entrance into the building, print you off a badge, shows the date and time with your picture on it, You'd then put it on your person and, visit our building. We'd know what time you came in and then what time you left. You would come back to the office.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Mr. Alexander?
I just want to make sure I heard. Now, they will have to come in with their own ID, a picture ID, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Or if they don't have that, they could do manual entry on the kiosk in the vestibule. So they'd put in their name, their date of birth. We would see if all the information matches up to verify that this is the person they say they are before we'd grant them entrance to the building.
So I guess my security piece is rolling. So now what happens if I come in and I put somebody else's name and I have their information and I put it in the kiosk without an ID? What happens?
So obviously, under ideal circumstances, we want them to have an ID, but that could happen.
Right.
So if the secretary is not comfortable, then she would call security, and we would respond to help her manage that, as well as the building principal, to help her manage that situation.
There will be nobody monitoring the kiosk. It'll just be that individual who's coming in to put that information.
It would be the secretary.
Gotcha.
So the only difference is now they're in the vestibule. We haven't allowed them in because we don't want an ugly confrontation right at the secretary's desk. We want to feel comfortable that we're good to go before we grant entrance to the visitor coming to the building.
Okay.
But I guess just to further Bruce's question, and what he's saying is if I come in and I use Bruce's name and birthday, I know his name and birthday if I did, how does it verify that I'm I'm me rather than Bruce?
Well, if you think about how we're doing it now without this system, the secretaries are pretty good at knowing who's supposed to be there and who isn't.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's absolutely foolproof, but it's absolutely better than what we're doing now.
Yeah, the only way you can avert that is not allow people entrance without proper ID. So we have this system in a previous district where I was employed. It works phenomenally. We've never had any problems with software breakdowns and equipment, nothing, and it's been there for about 4 years. But that particular district says if you don't have a driver's license or a state-issued ID, you can't enter. So it really depends on how strict you want to write this policy. If you want it to be absolutely locked down, then that's what they're required to have. That would be the way around that particular issue.
So those are good questions, and that would come out of how we write our policy that we want for our district.
Right. And because I want to make sure that nobody gets in the building that shouldn't be there. And so one of the things that we do at our juvenile detention facility, a parent cannot even pick up their kid unless they got a photo ID and it matches what we have. But that's what I'm saying. If I came in and I put something in there and said I'm somebody else, I can say I'm Don and put it in there and put I know your birth date. Now, I'm not you, but I can still get in the building. That's what my mind is kind of concerned with, so that we don't let anybody, because I can be coming to get my child to kidnap them and take them in like an Amber Alert, but nobody really knows who I am because I put that information in. I'm be somebody else. That's the only reason I asked that. They have a photo ID and somebody to man it, so we can. Because we did mention too that it will show that if somebody has something going on in their background, But if I have something going on in my background, I put somebody else's information in, I'm good. So that's just something for me that I'm thinking about when it comes to that.
And we do have those difficult custody situations that we have to manage, and that's part of it. You can customize the system to enter the information in there. It may be where there's a custodial parent that's not supposed to have contact with the child.
Right.
All those things will help us more effectively manage how we release our kids and who we release them to.
Right. I'm still concerned about the person that doesn't come in with the ID. I mean, I'm going to stay on that piece because I've worked in criminal justice, been there, I guess, too long, and I've seen different things that occur and happen, so I don't want that to happen. That's why my mind is thinking.
So as we write the policy,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander, as we write the policy for this, we can write the policy where they have to have
that's where I'm
either a
getting at.
driver's license, Ohio,
Right.
well, it would
ID
have
or
to be
driver, like
driver's license
Dr. Thompson said. Because,
or an ID.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
They were just saying that you could do either or, manual or, but we would write the policy.
And I like the policy.
Yeah.
My fear would be somebody coming in and not that person coming in and somebody.
Right, and that's what that's supposed to avoid.
You can say,
Yeah.
this ID, get that information. And if they don't look like this person, they look like them. It's a red flag right there, and you shouldn't be letting them go.
Member Sykes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. These were two great presentations, and I appreciate it. However, this is a perfect example of two presentations that should be in the committee meetings instead of in the regular board meeting of Akron Public Schools, and I would encourage and plead with you to please send these types of items to the committee meetings. We are 8:22 into this meeting, having started at 5:30. We have one board member that's left, one board member that's sick, and we're scheduled to go into executive session.
Point taken. Are there any other questions regarding this presentation?
Thank you, Madam President. I want to say thank you again for this presentation and the previous presentation, and I also want to say I appreciate how you started both presentations with the alignment to the blueprint to remind us the connections of what we're doing and why we're doing it. I definitely appreciate that. Regarding the ID, no ID clarification situation, I remember when I was an instructional coach, I went to a bunch of CMSD buildings, and Twinsburg also, it might not have been Raptor, but they also had the sticker badge that you put your ID in and it prints your picture there. My question is, if the kiosk is in the vestibule, does that mean that the sticker badge prints directly in the vestibule? So they have to go to the secretary to get their sticker. So there is that check of the secretary sees the sticker, they see the person's picture, and they can see whether or not I look like Job. So my next question too is, are these color pictures? Do we know? Or black? I remember the Twinsburg pictures. They were black and white, and they were incredibly grainy. I had better pictures printed out from my Casio Secret Sender 6000 in the early '90s. So, do we know if the pictures are actually? Are there any examples of the photos?
These are color pictures, so it'll be better than what you experienced.
And the quality's pretty good, too. You can absolutely identify a person based on that picture.
Okay, so I'm going to be the devil's advocate here when I think about the population that we serve, and I know there's quite a number of folks who probably don't have IDs. I am concerned about that barrier that might, take place because of this. And so can we customize it where, I guess, folks can pre-register and have their ID or their picture already in the system? Because you said it does keep record. Mm-hmm. Can they keep record of that? So, and then I'm thinking also, that seems like a lot to go through to sign someone out. I don't recall getting a badge to sign someone out, to sign your student out. Mm-hmm. That seems like a lot of time. And then if someone's not, technology savvy, I can envision what it might look like in that vestibule,
Mm-hmm.
Trying to figure that out. And I understand it would be a learning curve and that we have to hold people to these standards, but the reality is, the district and the folks that we serve, I'm just envisioning all of these things and then what it looks like if someone does have a record. Like, what does that look like? They're standing out there and security comes and, are they embarrassed? Things of that nature. So
again, we're not running people's criminal background. That's not a part of it. We're looking at sex offenders. That's the only thing we're identifying.
So we have those already existing who are aware of their backgrounds. Mm-hmm. So, is it set up in the system where we know that they're offenders? And so when they show up, because they're still parents.
Yes.
So when they show up, what does that look like?
Well, we're sensitive to that. That would be written into the policy. We would have a conversation with the person that they're showing up in a registry. They can contest that. We could show them the information that we obtained if they want to contest it. But we have a concern about allowing someone to come into our building unescorted who's in that status.
Well, to pick up their student, because we already have parents.
Correct.
Currently with those records and backgrounds.
Yes.
So if they need to pick their student up for an appointment.
Mm-hmm. That's not a problem. But we're not going to allow them to come into the building unescorted, is what I'm saying. It's not a problem picking up their child. We recognize we're going to have those situations.
Most sex offenders are prohibited by law from being within 1,000 meters or 1,000 yards of a school.
Yeah.
So technically, someone who is on a sex offender list cannot live by nor visit a school by statute, regardless of whether they're a parent or not.
Yeah.
But they do exist, and we do have those parents. That's just real. Whether.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. But, they have to, also continue to live their lives, and if they're raising children still. So I just wanted to say that out loud.
But I think what I hear is that you're going to put a safety team member on that person, or if it's an elementary school where there aren't safety team members, a staff member would escort this individual to get their child?
Correct. 'Cause we have to think about our vicarious liability that we're responsible for every child in that building. So we can't allow someone who's in that status to come into the building unescorted and risk the victimization of a child.
Right.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much for the presentations and all the information that you've given us for our consideration. That is listed under the business affairs recommendations. So we will entertain a motion to approve. Oh, yeah, more.
No, just read the statement.
Mhm.
So I would like to recommend the approval of the business affairs recommendations presented in category 24.
Is there a motion to approve the business affairs recommendations?
And that would include then the CDW purchase for the Chromebooks, Chromebook carts, and the presentation we just heard on the kiosks.
Raptor,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, I move to approve those.
It's been moved by Mr. Perry. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Molnar. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please. Dr. Thompson?
Ms. Sykes?
Yes.
Dr. Molnar?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Ms. Autry?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, President's Report. I just wanted to remind everyone that we do have professional development this coming Saturday from 10 to 12 here. And that's all that I have. Next is the Treasurer's Report.
No report.
Committee reports, legal contracts, and board policy.
Thank you, Madam President. Legal Committee met February 20th, and furthering our discussion from the board retreat on priorities as a board being open and transparent with the community, we had a discussion about community participation at committee meetings. Discussion on policy 169-1, public participation at board meetings, will continue at our March 18 committee meeting. But updated language on 155 committees should be up for a first read at our March 11 meeting. So before our next policy committee, but at our next regular board meeting. And additionally, today we have on the agenda 9700 advertising and commercial activities. As a reminder, this is a second and final reading. This is a new policy to APS. It was a Neola policy, but our senior staff and business affairs reviewed the policy to be the closest to what our operating practice was before when we did not have this policy. So we recommend a motion to approve 9700. Thank you.
And before we move to approve that, is there any questions about any other parts of the meeting?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So I am a member of the committee, and I actually think this is the third reading. And so because I believe it is the third reading, not the second reading, that I would support approval because we've definitely discussed this a couple of times in the committee. So this is actually the third meeting, so I would will support it because the rule does say third reading. Yes.
Madam Chair, that was going to be my question, because I know it gets confusing if you say it's a second and your final, we're supposed to have 3 readings, and I know one comes in the committee a lot of times, then we come back to the board, but I just want to make sure. I'm glad you said that. Thank you.
Thank you. So it should read the third and final reading as a correction.
So for clarity, it'd always say first read, second read, third read, dash final, for clarity. So am I hearing you correctly? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understand.
And so is there a motion to approve Board Policy 9700.01, advertising and commercial activities?
I move to approve that.
It's been moved by Mr. Perry. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Alexander. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please, Dr. Thompson.
Dr. Molnar,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mrs. Sykes.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Next, we have Finance and Capital Management Committee.
In the interest of time, I'll be brief. We met on February 20th. We had a great meeting. Dr. Thompson gave us a great presentation on our fiscal year 24, a bunch of different categories, revenue and expenditure analysis, monthly revenue analysis, monthly expenditure analysis, and all the numbers, from what I understood, look good for us. We also talked about having future meetings focused on the levy and on vouchers, which are 2 very important topics for us, especially looking forward to the levy conversation, knowing our status and what we're going to be doing in the next few months or so. But it was a great presentation. I encourage the public to look at these meetings. The next one is going to be March 18th at 4:30. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you for your report. Instructional policy and student achievement. Our chair, unfortunately, had to leave ill, so we will reserve that for next time. Moving on to Equity Committee.
No report.
There's no report at this time. I just wanted to briefly mention that there was a convening of the President's Ad Hoc Committee. Unfortunately, due to injury, I was not able to attend. My understanding that it was very well attended, and this is regarding our relationships with our PB sports organizations in the community, because we share students, and we do owe our students the best version of ourselves. And so I just wanted to share that I'm looking forward to future meetings and information coming from that.
Madam President.
Yes.
The committee is going to meet. There are 2 different committees, and then because I've tasked Ms. Carter with conducting those 2 meetings, and then she's going to bring that information to the board.
Thank you. And so there's no unfinished business. Is there any new business? And seeing none, there is a need to recess into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G to consider the dismissal of a public employee or official of the district under Revised Code 121.22G1, and holding a conference with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending court action under Revised Code 121.22G3. There may be action after the session. Is there a motion to recess?
So moved.
It's moved by Mr. Alexander. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Molnar. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair, so we have 2 members that's not here, and if this is worthy of going into executive session, I think that we should have those 2 members here. So I will be voting no.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Autry?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mrs. Sykes?
No.
Dr. Molnar?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 8:36. Thank you. Welcome back. We are reconvening at 9:01 p.m. from executive session. There is a need for action, and I will entertain a motion at this time to approve the settlement agreement negotiated by the attorney for the Board of Education to resolve the civil action Ames versus Akron Public Schools Board of Education, case number 2024-01-0407. Is there a motion?
I move to approve.
It's been moved by Member Perry. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Mr. Alexander. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call. Ms. Autry, yes. Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Dr. Molnar?
Yes.
Member Sykes?
No.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
And motion carries 3-1.
4-1.
4-1, I'm sorry. Math. And we will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Mr. Perry, seconded by Sykes. Any discussion? Roll call. Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Dr. Molnar?
Yes.
Member Sykes?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Autry, yes. And we are adjourned at 9:02. Thank you.